story of it's the evil and the ugliness of people's hearts these days is everywhere.
This is Franky Rose's Think Tank. Here's your host, Franky Rose.
Hey guys, welcome to the Think Tank on a blustery day. Our temps are plummeting. Well, I'm all kind of cozied up, got the heat cranked, got my neck warm, got my shoulders warm. I'm not leaving my house. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah, that's okay. Hey, I'm glad you caught up and are ready to go. There's a lot to this, hey? Little bits by little bits. Good day, hey? Good day. Good morning. Yeah, me too. Well, mine's not called no, it's not called that. I drink wimpy coffee. So let's see. The courthouse is sitting there staring at a flagpole once again, and they should not be too much longer. They call for quarter to the hour, but they seem to get going right around the top of the hour. So did everybody have a great evening? What did y'all do? I ended up with a great big leak in my basement, so I dealt with the plumber most of the day. Oh, yeah. Such is life, right? We just go with it here. Can't very well get cranky. That's not going to fix anything, so we'll just go with it. So maybe I will. No, I won't. I was going to say maybe I'll put up the flagpole, but that's no fun to look at either, is it? So how do you think this is going? Do you think that Kayla Montgomery made any points yesterday, or do you think it was, hey, Charlotte? Or do you think it was all downhill? I found her, I mean, I'm sure she was leaving stuff out just because that's what they do, but it just does not look good. I mean, Adam has got such a history of violence that I can't see Kayla doing that. Did she help him in other ways? I'm sure she did, but I don't think she had anything to do with her passing. I truly don't. Shauna and her cup of death cap. No, 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 no. Out of control bushfire started by lightning. 3 hours not far from my place. Also, 530,000 homes are without power. Whoa, Douglas. All that in Victoria. Oh, now that's a shame. That's a shame. So at right in the city, or oh my God. I haven't been to Victoria, so I'm not sure if it's like located with bush all around it or if it's rocky surroundings. I don't know. I'm really sorry to hear that. A huge storm went through the state today. Windstorm, or did you get some water with that, I hope? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's a shame. Such a beautiful spot. One I've always wanted to go to. Get them, get them, get them. I used to love bidding wars. Yeah, it is. Are you serious? Yeah, that's scary. That would have been Tuesday for them, I think. Aren't you guys a day ahead? Kind of, sort of. Oh, and all those beautiful animals and people displaced and nothing worse than a fire, I tell you what. Okay, yeah, stay safe. Stay safe, and hopefully that doesn't take any people along with it while it's up there burning up the territory. What a shame. Ooh la. We have a dump of snow. We had the graders out and like the big, big graders out, moving vehicles around, and yeah. Oh no. I mean, that's sad. That's super sad. I don't mind talking about that at all. It's just heartbreaking. And it's scary. Mother Nature's a beast. There's a lot of areas, well, like, I'm in the Rockies. So all these areas, we have to be super careful. And as careful as we are, when the tourists come in, they're not as user friendly. They don't know how to, or don't have the respect to do it, take care of our area, and things happen, throwing out cigarettes, leaving fires that aren't put out. And those things cause, oh, like drastic amounts of destruction if they catch. Oh, all good with the sticky caps. Snakes and roos, koalas, wallabies. Mm, 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 mm. Oh, my word, I'd love to be there. Special spot. My bio dad, his best friend lives in Australia now, and he's lived there for years, married an Australian woman, started a business, doing really good out there. But I've never been. Spiders and storms. Those are yours, Shauna. Mine is crickets. Not that I'm aware of, Cindy. Good to see you, friend. I haven't heard that yet. Fingers crossed. I don't know if they got that weather that they were expecting or not. I would think it would be pretty safe there. I wouldn't have any problems. Roger Rogerson is long gone now. I think I'm good. Yeah, isn't that the truth? Right next to the sea. It is so often not bestowed the respect it should. People die so often at her hands. She can be a cruel mistress. Yeah, absolutely. That's okay. I only go up to my knees. I'm good. It creeps me out what I can't see under there. If I'm like in a Caribbean setting, I'm good. But blimey, crocodile. You ever been to Steve Irwin's facility, Douglas? Just curious. Yep. Watch out for the jellyfish. That's, that's awesome. Hello, Gary. Oh my word. Okay, if I didn't say good morning, Charlotte, good morning. I got lots going on in the background, so my head's in all sorts of places right now. So if I make some boo-boos, I apologize. I'll probably, I've been off screen, I know, quite a bit lately, but I'll probably have to do the same again today. Wallabies! Hmm, probably sugar gliders there too, I would suspect. Wallabies. I don't really know what's going on here, but the camera's wiggling, so we'll just bring it up. I don't know what. Oh, okay. Oh, the incredible vibrating flagpole. Once things settle down a little bit here. Hello, Jess. Good morning, friend. Good to see you. You all buckled up and ready for another morning? Kookaburras in the old gum tree? Kookaburra in the old gum tree. I can't remember what song that was. I learned it when I was a kid, but it had something to do with the kookaburra and the old gum tree. You're ready? I'm ready too. So I apologize for being off screen so much lately. Like I say, I've just got a lot of stuff kind of going on. So I'm trying to get you guys this information and still handle the ish that's going on in the background. Kookaburras. Kookaburras live in the old gum tree. Yes, thank you for joining us. What's a gum tree? Oh, they got dingoes. They have dingoes. All sorts of amazing. Don't you guys have like something like the most toxic animals out of absolutely anywhere? Isn't that certain spots? It's spit it out. Certain spots in Australia. I don't have a fear of snakes or lizards or anything like that, so I'm all good. As long as you don't have palmetto bugs. Okay, well, they wiggled it and then they left us. Thanks, Jess. I appreciate that. There we go, 7 o'clock. I gotta figure out how to, I don't know how it got set for 7. I don't know. Yeah, thanks, Jess. It's appreciated. So I have been leaving for this trial. I've been leaving the banners out so that we get a good look at the closed captioning.
morning. Please be seated. Good morning. It's okay. Any preliminary issues?
Sidebar of the day. I'm not too fussy on the defense. She just laughs at the witnesses. Okay. It's like, oh, you douchebag. Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, that's very much similar to what I learned. That's too cool. That's true. Aye, no problem. Go for it. I appreciate it. Hmm, that's too cool. I don't know why I was learning Aussie songs when I was a kid. Sidebar before we even start. Let's do this. I wonder if they're going to call all those witnesses or if those were just the ones that they were thinking about calling, because this seems to be going relatively fast. Kayla was a little longer, but still it's going fast. Yeah, what is a gum tree? Is it a big succulent? Adam's in the Hooskow and not coming out. Oh, is that what it is? A gum tree's an yeah, eucalyptus tree. Thank you. Gotcha. I had no idea. I love eucalyptus. Oh, and there's many types of gum trees. Okay. Okay. You guys have really unique plants and trees there. It's pretty awesome. So the little dickwad didn't show up again today. Yeah, sugar gliders like that too. Just looking back, make sure YouTube's not on my butt about anything. So far, so good. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the whole watching the commercials helps me with my commercial revenue in a big way. And that's basically how I make my income is on commercial revenue. Oh, that sounds beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, darling. Dandy, hello. You're perfect timing. They had their sidebar before anything. Hmm. Are we going to watch a movie? Dandy, dandy. Dandy is handy. Shauna is magical. Mexie is texy. Douglas, you want to go, Doug, 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 Doug. Carrie, I want to know Lay. No problem, Jonathan. And do feel better. Do feel better, my friend. Yeah, anyone who gets to live on the Caribbean, I'm envious because there has not been a more beautiful ocean or sea, I don't know what you call them, but ocean that I've ever seen. Seattle, that's not too far. You've been all over there. Beautiful. Lucky girl. And then is living in the Caribbean. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. So I've got to make a fast, yeah, I got to make a fast call. So I am going to mute out for a second as we wait for this to start. Thanks, Juju. Great to see you, my friend. Thanks for stopping in.
All right.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. When the state is ready, you may call your next witness.
You're under the state police officer. Just watch your step there, officer. You remain standing. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
You can have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. Take some water. Officer Penton, can you start by stating and spelling your name for the record?
Officer Neil Pentinen, Neil Penttinen.
And Officer Penton, how are you presently employed?
I'm employed by the Manchester Police Department.
How long have you worked for the Manchester Police Department?
Since January of 2012.
And what is your current assignment?
I'm currently assigned to the Community Policing Unit.
And can you tell the jurors what that is?
The Community Policing Unit, we deal with mostly neighborhood issues, homeless issues, anything outside of the scope of patrol. We'll negotiate things, do community meetings, things of that nature.
And what are your current duties and responsibilities on that Community Policing Unit?
I am in what's referred to as an area officer. So I cover a section of the city when people call in neighborhood complaints or general issues that patrol doesn't have time to deal with. We go deal with those things.
You mentioned starting with the Manchester Police Department in 2012.
Yes.
What did you do for work prior to that?
Prior to that, I was a police officer with the Scottsdale, Arizona Police Department. I was hired there in April of 2005.
And when you came from Scottsdale to New Hampshire, did you go through the police academy?
I originally with Scottsdale, I attended the Mesa, Arizona Police Academy when I was hired in 2005. And when I was hired by the Manchester Police Department, I attended the New Hampshire State Academy, only the law package because I was already a certified officer.
Do you remember what year did you graduate?
New Hampshire, it was 2012.
And sorry, I asked two questions there. Did you graduate from the Police Standards and Training Academy?
In New Hampshire?
New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire, it was just the law package.
Right. And in Arizona, did you graduate from the Police Standards and
I
Training?
did. I graduated the Mesa, Arizona Police Academy in 2005.
So in total, you have 19 years of law enforcement experience?
Correct.
I want to switch gears, Officer Pentinen. In your current assignment with the Manchester Police Department, do you have occasion to conduct traffic accident investigations?
Occasionally, I do.
And can you walk the jurors through what your standard protocol is when you're responding to such an accident?
Standard protocol when I respond to an accident, when I arrive on scene, I'll do an immediate assessment of the vehicles if we need to get them off the road. I will immediately ask if anyone needs medical attention. If they respond they do, I'll get the fire department there or whatever medical needs. If not, then I will immediately ask the drivers for their information, their driver's license, insurance information, their phone number, and as well as the registration of the vehicle. After that, I will ask who the occupants are of the vehicle and get their names, dates of birth, phone numbers, addresses, all for the accident report.
So you mentioned speaking to the drivers of the vehicles, and then you mentioned getting the vehicle occupant information, where do you usually get that information from?
I'll ask whoever's there. If it's I'll speak to each person individually and get their information. Unless it's a child, then I will ask the adult who's on scene with them.
Do you typically speak to every individual other than children? Do you typically speak to every individual in each car?
Yes, I do.
And what's the purpose of that?
To get a brief synopsis of what occurred on the accident from different perspectives.
And do you document these investigations?
I do.
How do you document them?
I will immediately take notes on a notepad, and then I will fill out an accident exchange form for the individuals involved in the accident, which will include insurance information, phone numbers, addresses, and which is required by the police department. And then when that is all done, I will make a traffic accident report documenting everything from the scene.
And again, is it necessary during, and we're still talking your standard protocol, is it necessary during these investigations for you to see every individual involved?
Yes, I will need to see who's there.
And can you walk us through how that occurs? How do you see those individuals? Do you order them all out of the vehicle or something else? If
it's a minor accident, most of them will just stay in the vehicle. If they are on scene, I will ask who was in the vehicle and take a look at each person. You do have occasions where people will show up who weren't involved in the accident, might be related. But I will make sure that I look at each person.
Officer Pentonen, I want to turn your attention to November 29th of 2019. So with that in mind, were you working in your official capacity as an officer with the Manchester Police Department on November 29th of 2019?
Yes, I was.
And are you familiar with someone named Adam Montgomery?
Yes, I am.
And can you tell the jurors your familiarity with him?
On that day, I responded to I was dispatched to a traffic accident at South Wilson Street in Vinton involving two vehicles. And Mr. Montgomery identified himself as the driver of one of the vehicles.
Now, you mentioned these reports that you write following your investigation. Did you write a report following your interactions on that day?
I did.
And have you had a chance to review that before you came here to testify?
Yes, I have.
The accident that we're talking about from November 29th of 2019, does that accident stand out to you in your memory?
It does.
Why is that?
Because Mr. Montgomery was involved in another accident a few days later. And in my police career, that's the only time I've had one individual in two accidents within the same week.
Okay, and we'll talk about both of those accidents, but I want to focus on November 29th. And I think you said that stands out to you.
Yes, it does.
Can you walk the jurors through the initial dispatch that you received and your response to the scene?
It was a two-vehicle accident. I arrived. I was working in the patrol capacity that day. I showed up. There were two vehicles at the scene, multiple individuals in one of the vehicles, and there was just one driver in the other vehicle. I went through the standard protocol when I arrived at the location.
And when you say multiple individuals in one of the vehicles, whose vehicle was that?
That was Mr. Montgomery's vehicle.
And were you able to identify the individuals that were in Mr. Montgomery's vehicle?
I did.
And who was in Mr. Montgomery's vehicle?
In Mr. Montgomery's vehicle, I believe Kayla Montgomery identified herself as one of the rear passengers. There was an individual in the front seat. I would need as an adult female in the front seat, I would need to look at my report to refresh my memory of her name.
Do you believe that looking at your report, reviewing your report would refresh your recollection of
Yes, it would.
Name? Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Take your time, review, and just look up when refreshed, if it's been refreshed.
The front passenger identified herself as Tabitha Scott.
And Officer Pensonen, who else, if anyone, did you observe in the vehicle?
There were two children in the vehicle.
Did you obtain their names?
I did obtain their names.
And what were those two children's names?
Again, I would have to look at my report to refresh my memory of those.
Please do so. You can't read from it. You can't read it out loud, but feel free to refresh your recollection and just look up when you're done.
They were identified as Seamus Montgomery and Declan Montgomery.
Did you note their relative seating locations?
I did.
And what were they?
I believe it was the center passenger and rear right passenger.
Do you know which one was in the center and which one was rear
I
right?
don't recall which one was where.
Is that noted in your
It should be
report?
noted in my report, yes.
Please, if you believe that looking at your report would refresh your recollection, please do so.
Seamus was in the rear middle and Declan was in the rear right.
Did you see any other children in the defendant's vehicle?
I did not.
And did you, during your response, did you actually look inside of the defendant's vehicle?
I don't recall if I looked in the vehicle or not. It was so long ago.
Other than full of people, how would you describe the defendant's vehicle?
The defendant's vehicle, aside from having 5 people in there, there was clutter in the vehicle.
Is that something that you saw?
I did.
So, officer, I want to switch gears. I want to talk about that second accident just several days later. So I want to turn your attention to December 2nd of 2019. Were you working in your official capacity with the Manchester Police Department on December 2nd of 2019?
Yes, I was.
And on that day, did you respond to another accident involving the defendant?
I did.
And can you walk the jurors through your response, how you initially became aware and what you did after getting that information?
I was dispatched, I believe it was on Franklin Street, or in that general area, to a 2-vehicle accident. And again, the same thing. There were only 2 drivers in this accident. I immediately recognized Mr. Montgomery in the vehicle, having dealt with him a few days prior.
And again, did you follow your standard protocol after your response?
I did.
After you arrived at the location?
I did.
And who, if anyone, did you document in the defendant's vehicle on that occasion?
I believe Mr. Montgomery was the only person in the vehicle.
Do you believe that looking at your report might refresh your recollection?
Oh, yes, it would.
I can have just that approach, right?
Yes.
Feel free to take a look and just look at it.
According to my report, Kayla Montgomery was a passenger in the vehicle.
And during that response, did you note her relative seating location?
She was in the front passenger seat.
On that occasion, did you look inside of the defendant's vehicle?
I don't recall if I looked inside or not.
Did you note anything about the defendant's vehicle?
On this occasion, it was the same vehicle I dealt with the week before. The only thing that I noted about it was the new damage on the vehicle.
And I'm sorry, I want to go back to that November 29th response that you had. Around what time that day did you respond to the scene?
Again, I would have to look at my report to refresh my memory at the exact time. That was approximately 3:53 p.m.
And how about on December 2nd? What time did you arrive on the scene?
Again, I would have to look at my report to get the time that I arrived. That was approximately 10:43 a.m.
If I can have just a moment, Your Honor. No further questions. Thank you, Officer Pentinen. The defense may have some questions for you.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name's Caroline Smith, and I do have a couple of questions for you. The first one involves the December 2nd accident that you were just talking about in 2019. And where was that accident?
I would need to look at my report to get the exact address.
Do you still have it up there?
I have it up here.
Okay, go ahead.
That was at Franklin and Market Street.
And that's right around the clinic at Franklin?
It is in that general area, yes.
Okay. And the one at on 1129, where was that?
That was South Wilson and Vinton Street.
Okay. Is that near a Burger King?
It is not far, I believe approximately a half mile if I were to guess.
Okay. And on the, I don't mean to skip back and forth, so I'll stick with the November 29. You don't have a specific recollection of how you talk to people, right?
Not specifically, no.
Whether who was inside the car, who was outside the car when you talked to them, right?
No.
But if people were inside the car, you probably would have walked up to the car and talked to them through the window, right?
Yes, that's generally what I do.
Okay. And you saw the two boys in the back?
I saw two boys there. I don't remember if they were inside the vehicle or outside of the vehicle.
Okay. And when adults are driving around when anybody is driving around with children in the car, you recall that you were given the ages of the children, right?
Yes.
And one was over a year?
Again, I would have to look at my report for the
Please do. And I meant to say under a year.
and to note what the dates are, what their birth dates are as of the date. Yes, one would be under a year or approximately that age.
And when adults are driving around with a child under one, that child is to be in a baby seat, right?
Yes.
And if the child is not in the baby seat, what happens?
Generally, it's against the law and would be up to the officer's discretion to issue a summons for that or not.
Okay. And the second child was under 3?
Approximately.
And what are the restraints to be on a child under 3?
Also in a car seat.
Okay. And how about a child of 5?
Again, I'm 5 years old. I'm not sure. I would need to look at the exacts, but I believe it's any child under a certain size also would need a car seat.
Okay. And at the very least, I think it's under 12, have to be buckled in a seatbelt?
Yes.
And so you were aware of 2 children, right?
Yes.
And you had no concerns about their restraints, the child seat?
From what I remember, I did not.
By the way, I did say that the 1129 was outside, we said, I believe, outside uh, 2 was outside the clinic.
Correct.
And the 12-2 outside the clinic was 10:43?
Approximately, yes.
Okay, still morning hours.
Yes.
And the 11:29 was in the afternoon, 3:53, 4-ish,
Correct.
still light out, right?
For that time of year, yes.
Okay. Now, you also said that you gathered pertinent information about the driver in the car, like the license, registration, insurance.
Correct.
And Mr. Montgomery had a license, right?
He did. He provided me a New Hampshire license.
Okay. And as far as you could tell, it was valid, right?
Yes.
Because otherwise there would have been a problem there too, right?
Yes. Another thing I do is I will have dispatch do a driver's license status of any individuals who are operating the motor vehicles.
Okay. And so then on the accident on the 2nd, there were only people in the front seats of the car, no one in the back seat, right?
That's what I documented. I don't recall the specifics of the vehicle, but that's what I documented.
Okay. And again, whether you talked to the driver inside the car or outside the car, you would have talked to the driver, right?
Yes.
And if the passenger was inside the car, you would have walked up to the passenger side to talk to her, right?
I would speak to him either through the driver's side or depending on the situation, sometimes through the driver's side, sometimes through the passenger side, but I will speak to them directly.
Okay. And you did not see any children on that day, right?
No.
You didn't see any boys in the car?
No. If I did, I would have documented it.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Seating on the, I'm sorry, I'm going back again when I said I wouldn't. On 11:29, you specifically documented the seating,
Correct.
and Seamus was in the middle.
I believe so.
So there would have been you can check your report. I think you documented it, right?
Yes.
And so Declan was on one side, Seamus on the other, and then you would have noticed Kayla or been told that Kayla was on the other side, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any objection to that?
No.
Let me step down. You're excused. State may call its next witness.
State to call Mr. Matthew Gendron to the stand. Mr. Gendron, please call the bailiff. Just watch your feet on the cords in there. Mr. Gendron, if you would remain standing for just a brief moment, please. Thank you. Would you please raise your right hand, sir? You solemnly swear that the testimony you will give this jury will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please feel free to have a seat. Mr. Gendron, thank you for coming today. I wondered if you would please go ahead and state your full name and then spell both your first and your last name for the record.
It's Matthew Gendron, MATTHEW GENDRON,
And Mr. Gendron, what town are you currently living in?
Manchester.
How long have you lived here in Manchester?
About 12 years or so.
And right now, are you working?
Yes, sir.
What type of work do you do in general?
I work in a restaurant.
How long have you been doing that kind of work?
Most of my life, but I've been at my current job for close to 5 years now.
Let me ask, at one point in 2019, did you ever work at a Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes, sir.
And where was that Dunkin' Donuts?
It's located at Beach Street in Manchester, New Hampshire.
While you were there, did you ever work with somebody by the name of Adam Montgomery?
Yes, sir.
And with regards to Adam Montgomery, do you know who his wife is
Uh,
or was?
Kayla Montgomery?
Did you meet her there as well?
Yes, sir.
And how long did you work there with Adam Montgomery and Kayla Montgomery?
Probably around a year or so.
How long overall did you work at that Dunkin' Donuts?
I think I worked there 2 years.
Did you get the job, or were you working there when Adam Montgomery started working there, or was he working there when you got there?
He was already employed when I got there.
And what about Kayla Montgomery?
Same.
Same thing. All right. Did you ever hang out with Adam Montgomery?
A few times.
And did you ever friend him on Facebook?
Yes, sir.
Would you send messages back and forth to each other?
Yep.
All right. And back in 2019, about how often would you guys talk with each other?
I try to initiate a conversation every week or so.
Were you still working at Dunkin' Donuts when Adam Montgomery stopped working at Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes.
All right. General, I'm going to ask you show you what's been marked States Exhibit 101. Do you recognize that person?
Yes, sir.
And who is this?
That is Adam Montgomery.
That's the person that you worked with?
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to also show you what's been marked States Exhibit 11 for identification purposes. Jim, I'm going to hand you one more exhibit. This one's marked States Exhibit 11 for identification purposes only.
Okay.
And I'm going to, first of all, I'm just going to remove these police reports here. I want to ask you just about that particular exhibit. I wonder if you could go ahead and flip through all 3 pages just for a moment for yourself, just to orient yourself with it. Just asking in general, these particular images, what are these images of?
Of a Facebook chat with myself and Adam and Kayla.
And was that on your Facebook page?
Correct.
With regards to the conversation that you have there, do you remember that conversation?
Yes.
And do you remember having looked at those images at the time that you received them?
Yes.
Other than the fact that they're on paper and there's a little red sticker down on the bottom of the first page, any sort of alterations or changes to those images compared to when you saw them and you first got this message?
Not to my knowledge.
And are they accurate in terms of the time and date that you remember getting this message from the defendant?
Yes, sir.
At this point, Your Honor, I'd ask for the identification to be stricken from States Exhibit 11 and to publish.
Any objection? I'm sorry, you said no objection. Without objection, thank you. The ID is stricken. It's entered as a full exhibit.
Mr. Gender, I'm going to go ahead and leave this copy here if for some reason you need to refer to it. But I'd like to draw your attention onto the screen and have you, walk us through this exhibit together so we can understand this message that you got as you testified from the defendant and his Facebook page. So back in, let's go ahead to December 8th of 2019. Were you still working at Dunkin' Donuts on December 8th?
I don't recall. Maybe.
And well, with regards to at that point in time, do you know if, well, excuse me, you said you're not too sure if you were
At the
working.
time of these messages, I was at a different restaurant.
You were at a different
Yeah.
restaurant. Okay. So you're no longer working with the defendant at Dunkin'
Correct.
Donuts. All right. I'd like to go ahead and draw your attention. You can either look down or look at the screen behind you. And I want to go ahead and draw your attention to page 1 of Exhibit 11. And with regards to that, is this what you're seeing on the screen behind you? Can you just confirm for us that is page 1 of Exhibit 11?
Yes.
Okay. And I'd like to go ahead and ask you about the conversation itself. First of all, what time did you get these messages on, specifically on the 8th? When did they start appearing?
After midnight.
After midnight on the 8th? And specifically, what time did you first get the very first message here from
12:13 a.m. It says
12:13 a.m.?
Yep.
Okay. With regards to that particular time, could you go ahead and please read that message for us, the message that you received at 12:13 a.m.?
Hey, need help ASAP. Please need a jump and jumper cables ASAP.
And separate from that, did you get another message right afterwards, or excuse me, shortly thereafter?
Yes.
And what time did you get that second message?
12:58.
Okay. And what was the message that you got then?
Says I need a jump. My car died. We've been sleeping in our car and our battery just died.
Now, separate from that, did you then start responding back to this Facebook message from Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
All right. And what did you write?
I said I don't have any cables.
Okay. And then what's the next message that you received in this conversation?
This is Kayla. Will you bring me to a store to get them? I'll give you gas money. We will literally die tonight.
And with regards to that message, at that point, when it says this is Kayla, who do you believe now has the phone?
I believe it was Kayla. That was a joint account they had together.
Okay. In general, when you receive messages from this account, were you able to tell who it was from, whether it was from Adam Montgomery or whether it was from Kayla?
Not until they identified themselves.
Okay. And what about with regards to how they wrote, the type of words that they used? Did you notice a difference?
Not really.
Okay. What's the response that you wrote back after that? You received that message about we will literally die tonight.
I just got home from work and have to get up early for work tomorrow. What's even open and where are you guys?
Okay. So to clarify, at this point when you're writing, you said I don't have cables. Was that true?
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't.
I didn't have jumper cables.
Okay. And when you say when you move on about having to get up early for work tomorrow, you asked where they were. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. Why did you ask that question?
I was just curious as to where they wanted me to drive all around to at that hour.
Continuing on with the bottom part of page 1 here of the exhibit, I wondered if you could go ahead and what's the response you got to that?
It's okay, Matt. I don't know what it is open. I'm sorry.
That IDKs, I mean, I don't know, or I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. And what did you say back?
It's not your fault. I just don't have cables. It's not so I know what's open.
Okay. And so at that time of night, did you know what was open or not? All right. It has to be a verbal answer of yes
no,
or no.
sir.
I'm sorry, because the microphone's picking
Yeah.
up and recording. I wondered if you could go ahead and turn to page 2 now and walk us through the next part of this conversation that you're having. After that, you said you didn't know what was open. What message did you start getting on the account?
I think either if mobile don't have them, the only place is Amherst Walmart. So I know you need to get out early. Have a good night. Sorry.
You said get out early. Is that what was written?
That's what it looks like it was written. There's a lot of typos.
Okay. Certainly, would you say that the typos that you're seeing here is different from what you saw before when you got the message saying that it was from Kayla?
I would assume it's from the same person still.
Okay. Even though the
They
typos.
didn't identify they changed people, so I'm assuming it's still Kayla.
Okay. And so what do you respond back when they say, I'm sorry?
I said, it's okay. Try to have a good night.
Well, let me just, excuse me. That's right. Let me just try to get to it. You say, it's okay. Try to have a good night.
Yep.
And what's the response that you got back after that?
I'm gonna try. We can die in this weather. We can't, right? We can just really, can't even read that.
Is it CILD? Are we reading that right?
CILD.
Okay.
And it said, hey, I'm at Colonial Village, and Kimmy said she has jumper cables.
Looking at that first line, I'm going to try, can we die in this weather? And then is it we, how does they spell the next word after we?
Looks like CSNT.
Is it fair to assume that might be can't?
Correct.
Okay. Right, we can just, is that VE?
That's what I got.
Okay. Just V, really, and the CILD, what do you think that word is?
Probably
going to be?
cold.
Really cold. Okay. And then the line afterwards.
Hey, I'm at Colonial Village, and Kimmy said she has jumper cables.
Who's Kimmy? Do you know who Kimmy is?
Kimberly Frayne?
And were you Facebook friends with her?
Yep. I also worked with her as well.
Right.
At the same location.
And with regards to that, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and flip over to page 3 now. And, or excuse me, if you could stay at the bottom of page 2. I apologize. We didn't finish here. You said, can Kimmy jump you? Is that correct?
That's what I said. Yep.
What did they respond?
She don't have a car. That's why I've been messaging everyone.
Okay. And just for clarity's sake, when you said she don't have her car, what was actually spelled?
Was actually spelled?
Yep.
She don't have GER car. She don't have her car.
Fair to say, though, you interpreted that as her car.
Correct.
All right. And that's why I've been messaging everyone. If you could go to page 3 of that exhibit and kind of take us through how this conversation ended that day. After they said that's she don't have her car, that's why I've been messaging everyone. What was the next thing that you received, the next message?
So do YIH not want to do that?
What did you interpret that to mean?
Probably mean, do you not want to do that?
And what did you write back?
I don't really feel like running all over the place at this hour of the night. Did you try 24-hour roads assistance thing?
What were you suggesting to them when you said 24-hour road assistance?
Like AAA or just one of those type of services, I guess.
Have you ever used that service in the past?
I didn't have it at the time, but I have used it since.
Oh, that's what I meant. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Have you used it since? And did you find that they do have that ability to be able to jump a car?
Yeah.
Right. And if you could go ahead and take us through the next part of your conversation here. What did they respond after you suggested that they try to find somebody who could do the jump service?
It's not our car, Matt. Our car died today. I'm assuming the word his friend is letting us stay in his. It's all good, Matt. Don't worry about it. I just don't want to freeze tonight. I've messaged everyone else.
So again, some of those words misspelled.
Correct.
And when you were just reading for us, is that your interpretation of those misspellings?
Yes, sir.
All right. What did they say after saying we've messaged everyone else?
NOOBE, I'm assuming means nobody
Mm-hmm.
has cables or nobody has their cars.
Okay.
Spelled cats.
Spelled cats, but interpreted as cars.
Correct.
Okay. With regards to that, what did you say back to when they were said nobody has cables and nobody has cats? What did you write back?
I get all that. But roadside assistance can jump a car. They have helped me before. They don't ask for proof of ownership.
So when you write that back to them, what's the response that you got?
Yeah, no one of us has insurance. Don't worry about it, man.
And what time was that final message that day?
1:53 a.m.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gendron, after that conversation on December 8th about jumper cables and frame, let me ask, did you say, I don't know, maybe a month later in January of 2020, did you have any other Facebook messages from Adam Montgomery or any other discussions with Adam Montgomery about what happened that night?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. At any point in time, did you ever Was there ever a conversation with Adam Montgomery with regards to you not responding that night?
Also not to my memory.
Not to your memory?
It's been a while.
Okay. If I could just have a moment, please, Your Honor. Mr. Gendron, I have one final question for you with regards to the time that you were asked to go ahead and provide a jump, and you had this conversation with the defendant. With regards to that, at that time, did you know where he was living?
I did not.
And were you ever made aware that he was homeless at that time?
That was the first time I found out.
Okay. When did you find out?
Well, during that message that they're living in their car, I had no idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Gendron. I don't have any further questions for you. I believe defense counsel will have a few.
Okay. I do not have questions.
You may step down.
Thank you.
We'd ask for the witness to be excused, please, Your Honor.
All right, you may be excused.
They are just zipping through all of these people. I wonder if they're going to end ahead of time. I wonder if Adam Montgomery will ever show up. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. They probably had a bad alternator. I don't think that Adam was smart that way, or in any way.
Sorry, Your Honor, just trying to get the tech to work.
Nice.
At this point, the state would call Mr. Aaron Sweeney to the stand.
No. No.
Please be careful of the wires as you walk through. Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney, if you would go ahead and please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony you give this jury
Yeah.
the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Please feel free to have a seat.
That guy needs to speak up. Oh, he was standing. Oops.
And Mr. Sweeney, as we're being recorded here today, would you please go ahead and state your full name, spell both your first and your last name for the record?
Aaron Sweeney, AARON SWEENEY,
And Mr. Sweeney, what city do you currently reside in?
Manchester, New Hampshire,
Okay. How long have you been living here?
since second grade, so a long time.
Long time. Okay. And are you currently working?
Yes.
And where do you work?
BJ's right here in Manchester,
And what shift do you work for BJ's?
third shift.
Okay, so let me ask you, it's about 9:55. How long have you been up?
I actually called out last night
Okay.
to make sure I got sleep.
That's why I just want to make sure that you did get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. If for any reason you need me to restate your question or any lawyer to restate a question, just let us know and we'll be glad to do it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. With regards to your work for BJ's, how long have you been working for them?
Almost a year.
Yeah. And prior to that, back in 2019, what sort of job did you have back then?
I believe that's when I was towing.
Okay. And were you towing for a company called Auto City Towing?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to ask you about a particular tow back on December 7th of 2019 at the intersection of the Webster and Elm Street around 12:52 in the afternoon. Do you remember that tow?
A little bit, not fully.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, when you go ahead and you tow a car, can you kind of explain to the jury what sort of procedures that you go through when you're making a tow?
Our office just calls one of the drivers, and we're handed a piece of paper saying where we're going and what it's for, and then we just proceed to the location.
What about when it's a vehicle that has broken down? Is there a way that Manchester Police Department might dispatch you out for a tow?
Well, yeah, they call our tow company, and then our guy at the front desk dispatches us out, unless the individual themselves call for a tow.
Do you end up making contact with the police department before you go to do a tow?
No,
Just go straight from there.
it goes straight to our front desk, and then we're handed a piece of paper, and then we go right to the scene.
When you get to a scene for a tow, what are some of the very first things that you do, just generally?
Just contact whatever vehicle's involved and find out what's going on and where it's going.
And from there, when you do have to use a tow, what kind of tow truck are we talking about?
Flatbed. So the big
Flatbed?
ones, yeah.
And could you go ahead and please explain to the jury what's the process you have to go through to put a car onto a flatbed as compared to, say, putting on a car where you're just kind of putting two wheels up and the back two wheels are rolling?
We just get in a good spot, we hook it up, and then we pull it up. That's it, really.
And what about when you have to do documentation of this tow? How do you document the tow that you're doing?
We have a separate tow slip like the drivers use, and we just write like general information on it.
Mr. Sweeney, I'd like to go ahead and show you State's Exhibit 3B and 3C, if I may. Just a moment, please. Mr. Sweeney, I'd like to go ahead and show you what's been marked State's Exhibit 3B for identification purposes only. And I'd also like to show you what is page 6 of what's been marked State's Exhibit 3C for identification purposes only. And just have you take a look at those two documents for a moment, please.
Okay.
Okay, do you recognize them?
Yes.
Okay, and let's go ahead and start with State's Exhibit, page 6 of State's Exhibit 3C. How do you recognize that?
This is the tow slip that the drivers fill out.
So if you did a tow, is that the slip that you would fill out?
Yep.
And what about State's Exhibit 3B for identification purposes? What's that?
This is what is typed out by the gentleman at the front desk
Front desk.
of Auto City.
Of Auto City.
Yep.
Okay. So that's not something that you yourself fill out?
No.
With regards to page 6 of State's Exhibit 3C, on that particular one, who fills out that information?
I do.
And when do you fill that?
We fill out just very little bit before the tow. Once we get to the tow, we can fill out more, or if we have to, we fill it out once we get back to the lot.
And by the time that you are done with that tow, when you drop the car back off at the lot, at that point, you have to have the rest of that filled out?
Yep. So the rest of this is filled out, and then we give it back to the gentleman who types out the other one.
And with regards to, other than the fact that if you look at State's Exhibit 3C, page 6, other than the fact that it's obviously not on the original paper, it's been photocopied, do you notice any other sort of changes or alterations from when you would have filled that out?
No.
Do you recognize your initials down there?
Yes.
Okay. And did you fill this form out?
Yes.
At this point in time, Your Honor, if I'm going to take these back from you for just a moment, sir. The state is going to move page 6 of State's Exhibit 3C. We move for the identification be stricken from page 6 and to make the child exhibit of 3C. We get 3C1.
Any objection?
To page 6. So should it, if the exhibit is more than one page, should it be a separate exhibit? Like 3D? Maybe, Frank?
Sidebar. Yeah, that one kind of threw me off there for a second, Melissa. It was like, what? And then my mind just went left. So this guy got 3 piercings in his lips. I was trying to count. I think it is. I have so much of that stuff. Brand new. I was going to sell it. Yeah, we have a place called Chubby's Chicken or Chubby Chicken. And it's like, yeah, no. It kind of fits in that same category where, ew. I find it interesting how they all sit there and they listen to the sidebar. I bet they're amazed at what the conclusion they come to sometimes.
Correct. And I apologize, Mr. Sweeney. I just want to show you that page 6 from State's Exhibit 3A, and then I'm going to show you, 3C. I'm also going to show you State's Exhibit 3A for identification. Are those the same toe slips?
Yes.
And again, other than the fact that this one's a little bit easier to read and on with a red sticker, any other sort of changes or alterations between those two?
No.
Thank you very much. At this point, we're on a state strike ID from State's Exhibit 3A.
No objection.
All right, the ID is stricken on 3A. It is entered as a full exhibit.
Mr. Sweeney, what I'd like to do is to go ahead and give this to you to have right there, and permission to publish your.
Any objection?
No objection.
Yes, you may.
And Mr. Sweeney, I'm going to go ahead and have you be able to look at that photocopy up close. But I'm also going to have it projected on the screen behind you. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about the different sections of this form
Okay.
and the information you filled out. So, Mr. Sweeney, if you just turn around just for the briefest of moments, and is that a copy of State's Exhibit 3A that you have in front of you?
Yes.
Fair to say it's kind of hard to read at that size, isn't it? Is it easier on the paper?
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay. Well, I'd like to go ahead and kind of go through a little bit of the information that you filled out on this form, and you could tell us a little bit more about the toe. First of all, where did you go to make this toe?
Corner of Webster and Elm.
On the corner of Webster and Elm?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you ended up towing the car initially, did you bring it straight back to the lot or did you bring it somewhere else first?
I brought it over to the gas station that was on that same corner.
Would that be Budget Gas right on the corner?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you bring it there before bringing it back to the lot?
So they can get some things out of their car.
Do you always do that?
Only if it's safe enough or if there is a safe enough area to do it, I will. If not, I just direct them to come back to the shop.
When you were there, where did you park in the gas station parking lot?
Just close to Elm Street, like out of the way of the pumps.
All right. And at that point, did you allow some people to get some stuff out?
Yes.
Okay. Who got material out of the car?
I just only remember 2 gentlemen.
2 gentlemen?
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me. And once you've towed a car for somebody to get things out of it, what do you have to do? Do they just kind of climb up the side of the truck or?
No. So what I did was I extended the bed back out and I tilted it down so they can go up the ramp.
Okay. And then did you see the 2 people do that? Get
Yes.
things out of the car? Where did they put those things?
In another car.
Do you remember what that other car looked like?
No,
And the two men that you saw do this, do you remember what they look like?
no.
What kinds of things did you see get taken out of the car? Do you recall?
I don't remember. Typically, when people clean out their car, like especially on the side of the road, I just stay by my truck, give them space.
Okay.
I periodically look over to see if they're done.
And once they were finished, where did you bring this car?
Back to our lot at Auto City.
So let me ask you, with regards to the car itself, what kind of car was it that you towed?
A Sebring, as the slip says.
Okay. And let me ask again, you filled out the slip on the day of, is that
Yep.
correct? So fair to say that the information was fresh in your mind while you were there doing this?
Yes.
And for the different areas that you might not know right off the top of your head, somebody's phone number or somebody's home address, how do you get that information?
If the person who's driving the vehicle is there, I just ask them.
Okay. When you fill the slip out, where does it go once you get done with it?
It goes to the gentleman at the front desk, and then he does whatever he has to do with it.
And let me ask, is that you earlier looked at States Exhibit 3B? Is that you said that was a type up version?
Yeah.
Is that where this information will go?
Yes.
What are some of the information in general? I'll ask you about specifics in a minute, but in general, what are some of the information that you record?
Just the VIN number, the make, the model.
Okay. VIN number. So is that a vehicle identification number?
Yes.
Okay. Do you also record things like mileage?
Nope.
Okay. Do you record a reason to make this tow?
Yes.
And what about your own mileage and going to make a tow? Is that important to record?
Yeah, we've always been told like the mileage from the start of the tow until we get back to our lot.
So what I'd like to do now is go through the different sections of the tow slip with you on States Exhibit 3A and have you explain what we're looking at and the information that you filled in that day. All right?
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to go ahead and start focusing on the very top section there. Could you go ahead and just tell us what's the time that you made this tow?
12:52.
Okay. Morning or afternoon?
Afternoon.
Okay. And who was it that had requested the tow?
Manchester PD.
Is that typical?
Yeah, it's normal.
All right. What was the reason that you were towing the car?
Disabled vehicle.
And the intersection itself, could you say where that was?
Webster and Elm Street.
Pardon me. Where did you bring the car to?
Auto City.
Where's their tow lot?
It's on Commercial Street. It's right in the same building
Okay.
as our office.
Same building as your office?
Yeah.
Okay. If you could go through as well, the information of the owner of the car, the driver, who do you get that from?
The driver, if they're there.
And what information did you write down in this report?
Adam Montgomery.
What address did he give you?
77 Guilford Street.
And this information would have come from him?
Yes.
All right. Next area I'd like to ask you about is a phone number. Did you get any phone number to contact him on?
No.
Did you ask for one, or would you have asked for one?
We usually ask for one, and if they don't give us it, then we don't expect them to come back
Don't expect them to come back. What does that mean?
for their car.
At that point, it's believed that the car is going to be abandoned? Is that the...
That's what we assume.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you about some of the other information. How do you, the information that you write down about the car itself? I know you said the VIN number. Can we see that on the tow form?
Yes.
Okay. And what about the year of the car or the make of the car?
That is on there as well.
Okay. And could you again just give us the year, the make, and the model of car?
2010 Chrysler Sebring, silver.
Okay. Was there a license plate on this car?
Yes.
And what license plate was there?
4368206.
Was that a New Hampshire plate?
Yes.
Right. And the color of the car, what was the color?
Silver.
All right. I see that there was something else that was initially written and then crossed out.
Yep, blue.
Okay. Who would have done that cross out?
Me.
All right. Looking at some of the other information on this, I believe you just read the license plate for us. Is the VIN number on there as well?
Yes.
All right. And could you go ahead and read the VIN number for us, please?
1C, 3C, C, 5F, B1AN137502.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about the mileage that you write down. Is that your mileage?
It says service, right where it says mileage and service time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So that's not the car's mileage.
No.
All right. And the service times, what are the two times that you put down?
12:52 is when I left, and 1:39 is when I got back.
Okay. And when you say left, left where?
Left a lot.
Left the lot. Oh, left the lot to go make the tow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And then separate from that section, I'd like to ask about the reasons. What were the reasons that you checked off for why you were towing the car?
It was disabled and the type of truck that we have.
One of the last sections I'd like to ask about this particular slip is in your remarks section. You wrote two things. Could you please read those for us?
No registration and no phone.
Okay. And when you say no registration, would you have asked for a registration?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that a normal part of your practice when you make a tow?
Yes, it's just to get the most accurate information on the vehicle itself.
And about the phone number, same thing?
Same thing.
Finally, you're the tow driver on this car, correct?
Yes.
All right. And did you go ahead and write down your initials on that?
Yep.
Okay. And what were your initials?
AS.
If you could just go ahead and look at the screen behind you for a moment, can you just show us, just point generally where your initials are?
Right there, it says tow driver.
Okay. Thank you. Just a moment, please, Your Honor. Mr. Sweeney, I know that you stated that when you made this tow, there were two male individuals that helped get things out of the car. Let me ask you, when you were making this tow, did you see any children at all?
No.
None whatsoever?
No.
All right. Thank you. I don't have any further questions for you, Mr. Sweeney. I believe defense counsel may have a few.
I do, Mr. Sweeney. My name's Caroline Smith. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
So the car was about 20 years old?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you respond to that location, is Manchester PD still there?
Typically, yeah.
Okay. Because once a car is disabled, especially in a busy intersection, they want to make sure people are moving around pretty safe, right?
Yep.
And your flatbed actually has to go a little bit into the intersection to put the car on the flatbed, right?
Yeah, depending on the angle of the car.
Okay. And if a car is parked straight as if going straight through a traffic light, that's the kind of thing that you would get straight in front of it to put it on the flatbed?
Yep.
Okay. And was the car unlocked?
I think so. I don't remember.
Okay. Do you go in to like make sure the brakes aren't on or anything like that before you tow?
Nope.
Okay. With a flatbed, you can just lift it up?
We pull it up with a tow cable.
Okay. And you don't check to make sure the parking brake's off?
Nope.
Okay. Fair to say that you probably were there within 20 minutes of when that car broke down?
Yeah.
Okay. And you drove over to.
She drives me crazy
the
too,
two
Dan.
guys that came up to get stuff out of the car. Was the car already on the flatbed at that point?
Yeah.
And they came over and asked you if they could get some stuff out?
Yeah.
And you said, well, I got to get out of here. I'll pull over to the budget.
Yeah.
And then you stand aside and they go through the car and get stuff?
Yep.
Might be going through the front of the car?
They go wherever they can get access to.
Okay. And it was not locked, right?
No.
Didn't anybody give you the keys to the car?
Either they were in the ignition or they were handed to me, but I honestly don't remember.
You did have the keys though?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you give them back for when they were going through the car, or did they give you the keys after they went through the car?
I don't remember.
Okay. Thank you.
Just briefly, Your Honor, Mr. Sweeney, you were asked a moment ago in regards to how long the car had been there for maybe about 20 minutes. Do you know how long the car had been there in terms, when you say that 20 minutes, where does that number come from?
Just by the time we get the call and I get to the scene.
Do you know what time Manchester would have found that car or then turned around at the time between that and sending the note over to you guys to do the tow?
I have no idea. Basically, once the police get to that particular scene, they just call us or they call somebody.
So you know the time when you got dispatched?
Yeah.
But not necessarily what happened?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any follow-up?
When a car is broken down at a busy intersection, you try and get out there pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a dangerous situation, right?
Yeah.
And so for a dangerous situation, things happen pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Nothing further. We'd ask the witness to be excused, please.
You may step down. Any objection to his being excused?
May I have him on call?
Hi, it's Lisa Curran. I just missed the call.
So you'll advise the witness.
Hi.
Counsel approach.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, I just want to sneak in, get some fillings done, and then sneak out. I've got to work. So just the fillings. I do. Yeah, I know what I want done. So it should be easy peasy. Oh, thank you. 9 o'clock still? Okay, thanks. Bye.
That's you.
Oh, I didn't have that muted. Sorry, guys. You get to hear about my dental appointment. I unmuted it by mistake. That's hilarious. So yeah, I'm going in to get my fillings done
Call
tomorrow morning.
Mr. Joseph Tucker to the stand.
Be careful of the wires as you're walking through.
Mr. Tucker, if you would please go ahead and take the witness stand and remain standing when you get there, sir. There we go. And Mr. Tucker, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you will give this jury will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Please feel free to have a seat. Mr. Tucker, as we're being recorded here today, would you please state your full name and spell both your first and last name for the record?
Yes, sir. Joseph Tucker, Joseph, and Tucker.
Okay. And Mr. Tucker, are you currently employed?
I am, yes, sir.
Okay. And where do you work?
The Catholic Medical Center.
How long have you been working for them?
I just started back up in January.
Okay. And what do you do for them?
I'm the cybersecurity manager.
And prior to working for a Catholic Medical Center as the cybersecurity manager, where did you work?
Solution Health.
Solution Help?
Health.
Health. Okay.
Yes.
And what was the time that you were working for them?
April 2022 until January of 2023.
And prior to that, and I will ask you to just, if you can even move a little bit closer
Yes,
to the
sir.
microphone, I'll have you speak up just a little bit so I can hear you. Thank you. With regards to working for Secure Health, before that, where did you work?
Manchester Police Department, sir.
And again, I'm going to have you just kind of keep your voice up a little bit if you can.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. How long did you work for the Manchester Police Department?
Since 2015, so 8 years-ish.
Roughly that long?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were you working there in January of 2022?
Yes.
All I'd like to ask you a couple different questions about when you were a Manchester police officer. First of all, were you a full-time certified officer?
I was, yes, sir.
Okay. And did you graduate from the New Hampshire State Police Training Academy?
I did, yes, sir.
When was that?
2012.
Around 2012?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember your academy class number?
163.
163. All right. And let me ask you, with regards to your work with the Manchester Police Department, were there any other sort of law enforcement jobs that you had prior to that?
I worked for the Laconia Police Department before I went to Manchester.
How long in Laconia?
2012 to 2015.
2012 to 2015, and then Manchester from 2015 to 2022?
Yes, sir. I retired full time from Manchester PD, and then I did about a year as a reserve officer working in like cybercrime.
Okay.
So I don't know if you include that.
Okay. Yep. That's what I'm asking about, is all your experience there. With regards to your different duties in the Manchester Police Department, could you explain to us some of the different units that you worked at, different assignments that you had prior to you working in the areas of being a detective?
Yes, sir. I worked in patrol. I worked midnights for all 3 shifts, midnights, 4 to 12 day shift. I had a canine saber. We were primarily on 4 to 12. I helped create the drone unit, so I was part of the drone unit, and then went up to detectives at that point, sir.
And then went to detectives after that?
Yes, sir.
As a detective, what were some of your responsibilities and duties?
I was fortunate enough. I was a cross between general detectives and then also the cybercrime unit. So I assisted in both like digital cases, ICAC tips, cybercrime tips, and then I also did general caseload for detectives.
General caseload, what does that mean?
Anything from, financial crimes, fraud, homicides, violent crimes. Sure.
And how long did you do that?
I believe I went up in detectives in 2021.
2021?
Yes, sir.
Separate from that, in detectives, did you have any work in doing processing, specifically looking at physical items to see if there's any evidence on them?
Yes, sir.
And in January of 2022, were you asked to assist other officers in doing a search of a 2010 Chrysler Sebring with New Hampshire registration 4368206?
Yes, sir.
Where was that search done?
At the Manchester Police Department, and we have a vehicle processing bay, which is right outside of where the Sally Port is.
I imagine we might hear some testimony later on about this bay. So could you go ahead and describe it for the jury, please?
Sure. The bay itself, you can only access it from the secured back lot where we park most of the police vehicles. There is a 2 garage Sally Port. The left side used to have like tactical vehicles, and then the right side is where we would drop prisoners off or transport prisoners. Just to the right of that is a single bay garage door that opens up, and then there's also a side door to access it. Both are secure. You need your ID has to get in, and then inside of that bay, it could probably fit a full-size pickup if you took the pickup and went sideways. But
so it's a good size garage.
Yeah, and then we had tools in there for disassembling vehicles, and then we had evidence supplies down there. So if it was inclement weather or it was a long search, you could utilize the bay.
Okay. Let me ask you, what was your role during this search of this 2010 Chrysler Sebring with the New Hampshire registration 4368206?
I was Detective O'Leary. He's now Sergeant O'Leary. He was we joked around and called him the incident commander, but he was the guy that was in charge of all the crime scene processing. So I was more or less there to assist him.
And what were some of the things that you did to assist him, just generally?
Collecting of evidence items, the log, if there was any pictures. We were blue starring, which is a process to try to obtain any blood samples from the vehicle. So it sounds silly, but you have to turn the lights off for that. So I was the light guy, things like that.
The light guy, so literally turn the lights off, turn the lights on?
Yeah, and then You'd have to set the camera for 30 seconds, 60 seconds exposure to take the photo. So I would have a flashlight just so we could still navigate a little bit without the direct light.
So were you the one administering the Blue Star, or that was somebody else?
That was Detective O'Leary.
All right. Let me ask you, what roles do initials play at the Manchester Police Department when you're labeling evidence?
Generally speaking, when I initialed something, it was an item that I collected.
Okay. And what were your initials?
JMT.
So if you collected an item today, if you were going to collect this tissue box, and this was going to be an item of evidence that you went ahead and entered in at the Manchester Police Department, how would you have labeled this? If this is your first item of the day?
Sure. The box itself would have been JMT1, and then any items inside the box, like tissues, would be JMT1-A-B and subsequently.
Okay. Oh, I could see that. So something like, let's say
a backpack.
Like a backpack.
JMT1, and then if you have an item in the backpack, you want a 1A, signifying that that item A came from 1.
When you were assisting in doing the search of this car, were there other officers there to help you as well? Besides
Yes,
just
but there-
yourself and Sergeant O'Leary?
Initially, there was a lot of in and out, a lot of people checking in.
All right. And with regards to the items of physical items of potential evidence that you collected, do you remember how many that you directly took and initialed in the way that you just described for us?
8.
8.
Yes, sir.
So that would have been what, JMT 1 through JMT 8?
Yes, sir.
All right. Was one of those JMT 7 a pink toothbrush?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you guys get over how calm this courtroom is? It blows me away. And Elaine here, she's got a little bit of feist. Did you guys enjoy listening to my gentle appointments? How kind of me to share that.
Yes, sir.
First, I'd like to go ahead and show you what's been marked State's Exhibits 4 through 10. And then separate from that, I'd like to go ahead and show you what's been marked State's Exhibits 104 through 106. At this point, all of these are for identification only. And take your time. I know there's a What's that, Mr. Tucker?
Yes, sir.
Generally, with regards to the photographs, do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, sir.
What are they photographs of?
This, if I may, this photograph. Oh. Yes, sir.
Let me go ahead and if I can assist you on it. With regards to, let's go ahead and start with State's Exhibit 10. What's that a photo of?
This is the photo.
We're just going to keep it down low. We haven't published it
Okay,
yet, so
sorry.
I can't show the jury. Let me ask you this. I'll just go one at
Sure.
a time. For State's Exhibit 10, do you recognize this? I'm sorry. Apologize. Reading the ID upside down. State's Exhibit 5, do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, sir.
All right. What is that photograph of?
It's the evidence processing bay that I was describing earlier with the silver Chrysler Sebring in there.
The one that you searched?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And other than the fact that it has a red sticker on it, does that picture show the car as it appeared to you at different times during your search of the car?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to put that one to the side for right now. Separate from that, I'd like to go ahead and ask you about State's Exhibit 4 on this. With regards to that particular vehicle, do you recognize the vehicle at all?
It looks like the same vehicle, but without seeing the back, it's hard to say.
Okay.
But it,
Well, let me ask you, I'm going to direct your attention to the top right-hand side of the windshield in that particular vehicle, and then have you make a comparison with
I'm
regards.
sorry, Your Honor, I can't hear Attorney Ugadi.
Okay.
Sure, I apologize. Officer Tucker, what I'd like to do is have you go ahead and look, if you would please, at the top left-hand side of the windshield on State's Exhibit 4 in comparison to 10, and look at the two windshields as a comparison between the two.
yes, sir. It's got the same numbers.
Okay.
written on it.
And with regards to, also, I'm going to have you look at the lower left part of that windshield underneath the hood on State's Exhibit 4 and compare it to the lower left part of the windshield on State's Exhibit 10.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And other than do those particular numbers match?
Yes, sir.
If you could please ask you about the next exhibit. See, yep. Going to this exhibit, State's Exhibit 6. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do you recognize it to be?
It's the same vehicle, but it's the driver's side, front and rear of the vehicle, but the doors have been removed.
The doors have been removed.
Yes, sir.
And let me ask you, when you were searching this car initially, was there anything that was inside the car?
Yeah, like all the car parts and stuff, sir.
All the car parts?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And let me have you, and are those reflected in that photograph?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you could go to the next photo then. I'm referring to State's Exhibit, excuse me, is it? I read upside down. I apologize. State Exhibit 7? For State's Exhibit 7, do you recognize that photo?
Yes, sir.
What is it a photo of?
The front of the vehicle, the driver's seat, passenger seat, but looking in on the driver's seat.
So looking in the driver's seat. So where the steering wheel is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does that photo show the car as you saw it when you were searching the car?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you could go to the next exhibit, please. It should be State's Exhibit 8.
Yes, sir.
What's that a photograph of?
Same context, except from the passenger or from the driver's front, it's the driver's rear.
All right. So right behind the driver's seat.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does that photograph also accurately reflect the vehicle as you saw it the day that you helped out with the search?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the next photograph. And that particular one, State's Exhibit 9, I believe?
Yes, sir.
All right. What's that a photograph of?
It's the trunk of the vehicle, sir.
The trunk of the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
If you could please, I'd like to direct your attention from 9 and also direct it to State's Exhibit 103, 4. Have you look at those two. Do you recognize, let's start with State's Exhibit 103. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, sir.
What's that a photo of?
It's the trunk of the vehicle, but with more items in it.
Is that how the vehicle initially appeared, or
Yeah.
did you fill it with items, or did you empty it from items?
No, we emptied it, sir.
Okay. And does it also show the registration for the car there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. State's Exhibit, the next one there should be 104.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is that a photo of?
Just another close up of the trunk area with all the items in it.
Okay. What kind of items are they?
It's like steering components. Looks like the front CV shaft and maybe a cross member.
Okay. A cross member?
Yeah, like the front frame, like the cross member.
Oh, okay. Okay. Working our way around the car, I'd ask you to look at State's Exhibit 105 and see if you can tell us a little bit.
Thank
about
you very
that particular
much.
Photo. What's that a photo of?
The right rear, the passenger side rear, with the door open.
So this is Mind of
Did
Monsters.
it
Mike?
also have car parts in it?
Sub up, you guys.
Yes, sir.
Can you see that in the photograph?
Yes, sir.
And is that accurate from when you saw it, when you helped with the search?
Yes, sir.
And if you could go to the next smaller exhibit there, yes. That's
106.
106. What's that a photograph of?
The passenger front seat.
So now we've worked our way around the car to the passenger front seat.
Yes, sir. Right front.
And does that appear as you saw it when you helped do the search?
Yes, sir.
What were some of the items that were in that seat?
More car parts, broken glass, snow, just trash.
And does that accurately reflect how it appeared when you did the search?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. One last question for you, separate from these. The last one I believe that we haven't talked about with regards is State's Exhibit 10. Could you tell us what that's a photograph of?
Pink toothbrush?
Okay, and do you recognize that toothbrush?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how do you recognize it?
It was in the back of the Sebring, sir.
Okay. In the back of this car?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that a toothbrush that you seized and put into evidence?
Yes.
Okay, and you remember what was the initials that you gave for that one?
JMT7.
JMT7.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. With regards to the photograph, does it look, other than the fact that it has a red label on it and somebody on that photograph has put their initials, other than that, any sort of changes or alterations to it from how you remember it looking when you collected it?
No, sir.
At this time, Your Honor, the state, if I could take these back, please. The state would move to go ahead and strike the identification, specifically from state's exhibits 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, as well as from state's exhibits 104, 105, 106, 103, 104, 105, 106.
Any objection?
No objection to the 100s, and no objection to 4 through 9. I thought I heard something about 11.
Specifically 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
I think 10 may already be, but we would have no objection to it being entered.
So no objection,
No objection.
other than 11, which wasn't shown. So those can all be marked as full exhibits. The ID can be stricken.
Mr. Trucker, what I'm going to do in a moment is I'd like to give these photographs back to you to be able to have up close, but I'd like to also project them on the screen behind you, so you can feel free to look either at what is in front of you or what is behind you. Does that matter? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Looks like this is a natural breaking time, so I'm gonna, we'll take our 15-minute mid-morning break now. I remind you, don't discuss the case with each other or with anyone else. Don't do any independent research. We'll see you in about 15 minutes. It's my hope that this will actually be 15 minutes. You can take a break. All right, take your break now. I would like to start on time if we can. All right, you may step down, but don't discuss the case with anyone.
And we are back.
We have Attorney Brooks. Attorney Brooks. Everybody ready?
Yes.
We'll rise for the jurors, please.
Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you, P9.
All right, to the jury.
Please be seated. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Tucker, I had gone through a series of photographs with you just before we took our mid-morning break. Do you see that same stack of photographs in front of you now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, what I'm going to do is I'd like to be able to ask you questions about these photos, and I'll go in roughly that order and be able to, you can either look at the photographs in front of you or feel free to look at the screen behind you, whichever one's going to be easier. And I've got a series of questions for you about how you conducted the search and the appearance of the car. All right?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'd like to go ahead and start with State's Exhibit 103. And I wondered if you could go ahead and describe this photograph for us.
Yes, sir. This is the trunk of the Sebring with the car parts in it.
Okay. And you said the car parts in it. Could you just kind of generally point with your hands where those are again?
Yeah, this is all part of the car parts.
Okay. And do you know where those car parts came from?
I believe they came from the front of the vehicle.
Okay.
I believe that's like a CV shaft. Has to do with power to the wheels on the front of the vehicle, but I'm not a mechanic.
Okay. And with regards to the license plate, can we see the license plate on the car?
Yes, sir.
And could you read the license plate for us?
4368206.
Moving around to State's Exhibit 5, what are we looking at here?
That's the front of the vehicle, specifically the driver's side.
And is this also, again, how the car looked that day when you searched it?
Yes, sir.
And so I guess from that question, is this the bay that we were talking about, the evidence bay that you can do the search in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I can't help but notice it doesn't have a wheel. Did it have any wheels?
No, I don't think it did, sir.
Okay.
But I wasn't there when they took it from the junkyard. This is the first time I saw it. Was I came into work and was instructed to go down and help Detective O'Leary.
All right.
But sir, I'm gonna need you to speak, maybe slide your chair over a little
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that you're speaking into the microphone.
Yes,
because
sorry.
This is recorded and we do need to get your voice. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Before, I also had you do to look on the windshield specifically of the car, and we talked a little bit about it. I'd like to switch now to State's Exhibit 4. This particular car, is this the car that the photo that I had you make a comparison of that windshield?
Yes, sir.
All right, and showing State's Exhibit 5 and 4 together, 4 being on the bottom and 5 being on the top. Do you remember the letters and the numbers that I had you point to in the top right-hand corner of the windshield?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do we have those both highlighted here on the screen?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember me asking the question about the numbers indicated on the lower left-hand side of the windshields?
Yes, sir.
And do we have those also highlighted here on the screen?
Yes, sir.
So with regards to this car, we're looking at the same car here between these two photos, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Working our way around the car, and I'd like to go ahead and kind of move in a counterclockwise fashion from looking at the hood. Moving now around to the driver's side, can you go ahead and point out for us, when you said that there were car parts in the car, show us where those car parts are, and do you recognize any of those parts?
Yes, sir. So the driver's seat, these are car parts, and then the back passenger seat had more car parts in them.
Okay.
And then obviously the floorboard.
And the floorboard as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With regards to those car parts, let's go ahead and kind of zoom in, if we would, to the passenger area, to the driver's seat. So zooming in to that same photograph here of the State's Exhibit 6. Can you see those car parts a little bit better?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to go directly to one seat and then the other. So if we could start with the driver's seat, looking at State's Exhibit 7, can you point out where some of these parts are that you're talking about?
Sure. Yes, sir. This looks like the bezel, which would go up here where you're looking at your instruments.
Mm-hmm.
These look like some underbody parts, like that might be a suspension component, but again, I'm not 100%, but they're definitely car parts.
Okay. And moving to State's Exhibit 8, if we go into the back seat, right behind the driver's seat, what are we looking at here?
More car parts, sir.
Okay.
This looks like it might be usually an air filter box.
Mhm.
I'm not 100%. And then this looks like it might be a fender well, like up in the inner fender.
Okay. And is it fair to say from seeing here, we don't see a driver's side rear tire as well?
No, sir.
Moving now kind of to the trunk area, if you could, I'd like to go back to State's Exhibit 103. You already identified this photo for us as being that particular trunk of the Chrysler Sebring with the car parts in it. I'd like to, if you could, describe for the jury as we look at specifically State's Exhibit 104, what was the condition of these parts that you were looking at?
Just like that, they look like old car parts. I mean, I didn't take the car parts out and see if they fit the car, but I assumed that they belonged to the vehicle.
Was there generally, were there any kind of fluids that were coming from any of these parts that you noticed?
Not in the trunk, but there was a liner, so it's hard to say.
Okay.
I feel like the liner would have absorbed it.
What about in other areas of the car?
Yes.
There were?
Yeah, I believe so. Like the passenger seat, I think the right front had like wetness.
Okay, so I really need you to keep
Yes,
your
ma'am.
voice up. It's a big room and everybody needs to hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Thank you.
I believe the right front area had wetness.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm going to zoom in. Did you help remove these parts from the vehicle to help do the search?
Yes, sir.
Where did they go?
I think we laid out a piece of big parchment paper, like
Mhm.
brown, like the same material, like a Hannaford's bag, like when you go to the grocery store and you get paper bags.
Yes.
Just a big roll of that. We laid it out, and they go on that roll.
Okay. Did you help, or did you watch as the car parts got emptied from the trunk?
I helped, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. And I'd like to show you now State's Exhibit 9 zooming in on this portion of State's Exhibit 104 in the back corner. Can you tell if there's any particular of a color that's in that photo?
Color, sir?
Yeah, any color that doesn't look like a car part. And feel free to use the screen or the photograph if you wish.
Are you referencing like the looks kind of light blue?
Look like blue to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Once you emptied out the car, were you able to see what that light blue thing was as we look at State's Exhibit 9?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what was it?
T-shirt.
A T-shirt?
Yes, sir.
Right. Just and with that trunk emptied, excuse me, apologize. With that trunk emptied, were you able to look farther to the back of the trunk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And from there, what were the different items that you saw?
I think it was all clothing, and then the toothbrush. You can see a little bit of it right there.
Right where?
Right here, sir.
And that's inside that circle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you able to see it? Let's say you can see it here from the photo, I take it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. Zooming in on State's Exhibit 9, can you show us again where it is that you see it?
Yes, sir. Right here.
Right there?
Yes, sir.
Then showing again State's Exhibit 10. This is the toothbrush that you recovered from that trunk?
Yes, sir.
On that toothbrush, I believe you testified earlier on in direct that it was identified that you logged it in as JMT7. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked State's Exhibit 66 for identification purposes only. Just go ahead and look at the label, feel the bag. Do you recognize that particular packaging as well as the inside?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is that packaging? How do you recognize the packaging?
It's the brown bag that I placed it into.
And does it have your initials on it, JMT7?
Yes, sir.
At this point, if I'm going to borrow a pair of scissors, I'd like the witness to be able to open the bag. Mr. Tucker, since we are talking about a toothbrush, I wonder if you would be willing
Yes,
to
sir.
put on a pair of gloves for us and be able to open that bag. And then you said you're going to put it on a second glove. Can you please tell the jury why?
So most of the time when you're processing crime scenes, there's a lot of evidence, and you put on a fresh pair of gloves every time you collect the evidence. And if you don't have double gloves, your hands become very sweaty, and it becomes very difficult to put on a fresh pair of gloves. So it's just easier, especially if you're doing blood swabs and things of that nature. But that's how I was always taught. So that's how I do it. Yes, sir.
You should please go ahead and use those scissors to open up.
Do you have a preference on where?
I would say ask, please, you would please go ahead and cut in an area where there isn't a label.
Okay.
Maybe on the side. Just large enough for the operator. Let me ask you, without taking the item out of the bag, just looking at it. Do you recognize it?
Yes, sir.
What do you recognize it to be?
The toothbrush from the vehicle.
Just go ahead and ask for the identification of the strictly wrong.
Without objection.
All right, the ID is stricken and it is entered as a full exhibit.
Mr. Tucker, would you please go ahead and show us the toothbrush? And if I could ask the witness to please step forward.
For the purpose of,
Just to be able to show both sides of the toothbrush. I don't know that the jurors in the back are going to be able to see both sides.
yes, he may
They
do
can
that.
See the front, but they can't see the back from the phone.
That's fine.
A lot of pressure right now. I could trip. Please, you can see the front of the toothbrush on the state's exhibit 9, but I wondered if you would please go ahead and show the toothbrush, both show the front, and then also turn it around and show all the sides slowly so that all of the jurors can see. And if you could please turn it around to the back so that the jurors can see what the back of the toothbrush looks like. Thank you, Mr. Tucker. If you could please retake the stand. Thank you. And Mr. Tucker, let me hold the bag open. You could go ahead and place that back in there. Hold on just a moment. That's the only item we're going to ask you to look at, so I will go to trash can. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Tucker, moving on around the car, out of the trunk now. I'd like to go over towards the passenger side, if we could. We'll start with the rear passenger side. Looking at State's Exhibit 105 here, can you describe what we can see in this photograph?
Yes, sir. More car parts on the seat, and then some trash items, and it's like a water bottle on the passenger side floorboard.
And I see here that we've got a door on this side.
Yes, sir.
All right. And on the previous side, on the driver's side, were there any doors there?
No, sir.
Moving on from this particular one then to State's 106, could you please describe what we're seeing here and what part of the car?
It's the right front, the passenger side front. Looks like the headlight is on the floorboard, and maybe a reservoir for like washer fluid, something of that nature, and then some snow.
And some snow. Can you point out where the snow is?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And that headlight, the reservoir, the snow, all of those were there when you saw the car in that garage bay, correct?
Yes, sir.
None of those were placed there by officers to your knowledge.
Not to my knowledge.
Let me ask you, with regards to some of the other evidence that you looked at and collected on this particular item, this particular car, separate from the toothbrush, were there also a series of swabs that you took in the trunk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how many of those swabs did you take?
4.
4?
Yes, sir.
And how were those labeled? Your initials again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it was just 1, 2, 3, 4? Or?
Yes, sir. JMT 1, 2, 3, and 4.
4. Okay. Those particular swabs, could you go ahead and describe for the jury how you collected swabs? You talked about it a moment ago when you showed us how instinctually you use 2 gloves. When you do these swabs in the trunk, how do you collect those?
So for swabs, when it comes to blood, if it's not wet, so if the blood's not wet or the material's not wet, urine, whatever it is, if it's dry, we have sterile water. We take it, we pour it into the cap.
Mhm.
Each cotton swab contains 2 in the package, the container. So you glove up. Usually, I would write all the details on the box. There was a little cotton swab box. So I'd write, it's folded, you assemble it. So it's easier to write on it before. So you'd write JMT1, set it up, date, time, all the information, put on your gloves, do the water, get everything ready. And then at that time, because we were using Blue Star on the trunk, there was kind of like a limited amount of time because you have to have the lights off to see the area that you're going to collect. So you'd spray the Blue Star, it would illuminate, you could see that area, and then you had to turn the lights on and collect it. So I was there waiting ready with the swab ready to go.
I see. So to make sure I understand this right, you're not necessarily administering the Blue Star, but you've got the swabs
Yes.
that you've opened up. Are each one of these swabs, the water that you put together, the boxes, are each one of those sterile before you open them to take a swab?
We'll start
Okay. And
finding out
is
what
that
they
also
actually
very
have
important for you
now.
for taking a swab to double glove and to make sure you're using sterile materials?
Yes.
Those 4 swabs and the toothbrush, are you aware whether or not those were sent on to a laboratory for examination?
I believe the toothbrush was,
Okay.
but I wasn't aware at the time. I assumed everything that we were doing was going to end up at a lab.
If I can have just a moment, please, Your Honor.
Yeah, what a coward. Still not
I've
even
got one
coming
last,
to the courthouse.
question I want to ask you. The trunk liner itself, with regards to the 4 swabs that were taken, did you also collect, I believe you said at the very beginning, there were 8 evidence items that you took. Could you please tell us what JMT 8 was? What was the last thing that you cut out?
I don't remember.
Okay. If you had a chance to look at a report written from the search that day, do you think that might refresh your recollection as to what the 8th item was?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tucker, I'm going to go ahead and hand you a copy of what's been marked, just a bait stamp, page 111. I'm going to direct your attention down at the.
I'm going to need you to raise your voice so everybody can hear you, please.
I apologize. Mr. Tucker, I'm going to go ahead and hand you what's been marked discovery page 111, and I'm going to direct your attention down to the bottom of the page. First of all, after having a chance to read through that document, I'm going to ask, is that a write-up of what the search was that you were a part of for these photographs and for your taking of evidence?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm going to have my question for you is going to be, what was the 8th and last thing that you collected? I'm going to have you said you didn't remember. I'm going to let you go ahead and refresh your recollection. If it's refreshed, let me know. Just look up when you're done.
Yes, sir. It was part of.
Oh, I'll take that back.
Yes, sir.
Also,
Sorry.
That's all right. And do you recall now what JMT 8 was, that last thing that you collected?
Yes, sir.
What was it?
A piece of the trunk liner.
Piece of the trunk line?
Yes, sir.
So, and how did you get or recover that piece of the trunk liner?
We cut it.
You cut it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What did you use to cut it?
I don't remember.
All right. And then after it was cut, first of all, you have shown us what you do with gloves and try to present and collect things in a sterile manner. Would you have done that for trying to collect what JMT 8 was, the cutting of the trunk liner?
Yes, sir.
And would you have logged it into evidence the same way you did the other ones, JMT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Tucker, I don't have any further questions for you. I believe defense counsel will have a few.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Detective. I don't believe we've met, but I'm Jamie Brooks with Public Defender, and I represent Mr. Montgomery. I'm also going to ask you some questions about that search you conducted with then Detective, now Sergeant O'Leary. Do you
Yes, sir.
understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and this search was on January 1st. Your participation in the search was on January 1st, 2022.
Yes, sir.
And it was the Chrysler Sebring, right?
Yes, sir.
And it was already in the Manchester Police Department bay when you saw it.
Yes, sir.
The pictures that were shown showed what were like the guts or the parts of the vehicle inside, right?
Yes, sir.
But eventually those items were all removed from the interior of the vehicle.
I think so. It wasn't by me.
You mentioned there being, I don't think you used the word butcher paper, but there was paper that O'Leary put down, correct?
I don't know if it was O'Leary, but there was paper down. Yes, sir.
Okay. And the purpose of the paper being down was to put the parts of the car that were in the interior on the ground.
Yes, sir.
Because not only were you looking for items such as toothbrushes, but you were also looking for latent blood stains, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned Blue Star. Blue Star is a latent blood stain reagent.
Yes. Yes.
It reacts with hemoglobin.
Yes.
It can detect the presence of blood that cannot be seen by the naked eye.
Correct.
It can detect blood that has been cleaned up.
Yes, sir.
It can detect minute amounts.
Yes, sir.
And Blue Star was applied to the entirety of the exterior of the vehicle.
That I don't know. I wasn't there for that.
You weren't there for that?
No, sir.
Were you there for but you were there for the collection of swabs, right?
For the trunk, sir.
Just for the trunk?
Yes, sir.
All the same, you were there for when the Blue Star was applied to the exterior of the vehicle.
I don't remember that. I remember the trunk.
So, okay. Are you aware of Blue Star being applied to the exterior of the vehicle?
Not that I can remember.
And what about the interior of the vehicle?
The trunk, yeah.
The state just had you look at a report.
Yes, sir.
Correct? And that's from the state's discovery.
Yes, sir.
Bait stamp 111 through 114 state's discovery.
If you say so.
Do you still have that report up there, Detective?
No, sir.
If I may. Permission to approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you recognize this document, Detective?
I do, yes.
And you indicated you could not recall the extent of the use of Blue Star to the vehicle,
I remember the trunk, sir.
but you don't remember any other portions?
No.
Would it help you to look at that report?
Yes, but this isn't my report.
This is the same report that the state just provided you to refresh your recollection?
Right, but this report was written by Brian O'Leary. So he documented the items that I found.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any specific recollection of your participation on January 1st of 2022?
Yeah, I remember going down. I remember helping Brian Blue Star the trunk. I remember helping collect the samples. I remember collecting the items from the trunk. I don't remember doing much more than that for the vehicle.
So for you, you believe it was just the trunk?
Yes, sir. For the most part, yeah.
Well, while we're at it, let's go ahead and talk about the trunk then. So Blue Star emits a reaction to the hemoglobin, right, by chemiluminescence.
Right, it's like a neon green looking color, like neon green, neon blue.
Some people say blue.
Yeah.
Light blue.
Right.
And your role in this was to make sure that the lighting was correct?
Yes, sir.
So it doesn't have to be pitch black for Blue Star to work, right?
No, but you want darkness for the camera.
You want dim light.
Right.
And was part of your role to make sure that the camera was functioning?
Nope. Detective O'Leary set the camera up on the tripod and had all the settings. You had to use specific settings, like shutter length that it's open for, type of thing.
And you were just ready with the swabs.
Yes. And then
And what you were waiting for was to see a reaction, right?
Correct.
And it would manifest itself with a light blue color.
Right.
It's a light blue color that would last for roughly 30 to 60 seconds.
Yeah, It's not very long.
But that 30 to 60-second reaction would suggest the presence of blood.
Yes, sir.
Blood that the naked eye cannot see.
Correct.
Blood that could have been cleaned up.
Correct.
So when there was that reaction, you would take those swabs, right? And get samples
Right.
from that area that was illuminated.
Correct.
And you mentioned 2 swabs. One swab would be used to later provide to the state forensic laboratory.
Right.
The second swab you would use for a hemostick, right?
It depends. I think the second swabs in this case, I just used it for the next sample.
Okay. Let's talk about swabs you collected. JMT1, would that be something that you collected?
Yes.
And what was that? Do you recall?
No.
Would it help you to look at something to be able to recall that?
The report, yes.
Feel free to do so and just look up when you're done.
Yes, sir.
So JMT1, what is that?
So you want me to describe what's in the report?
From your recollection, if you like, or I can just ask you questions about it at this point. It was a DNA swab that you took, right?
Right.
And it was a swab of an area that was positive for Blue Star, correct?
Right.
And it was by a piece of insulation.
I can't remember. I remember the trunk, and I remember we sprayed the Blue Star, lights went off. Or you see the areas that reacted, and then we took a photograph, and then we would look at the photograph after and compare, and then take the sample from that area.
So a swab was used to tame a sample, and was hemosticks also used on JMT1?
I don't recall that.
Fair to say, though, that the process, this isn't the first time that you've been involved in the Blue Star collection process.
It might be. There's one other time that I know of.
Okay.
That was over on Guilford Ave. I just don't remember if this happened before that.
But in terms of your recollection of the protocol or the proper procedure, if there were any reaction, positive reaction to the Blue Star, a sample would be collected, right?
Right.
So JMT1 reflected a swab from an area of the trunk that tested positive for hemoglobin. Let's talk about JMT2. Do you recall what that is?
From reading the report, it says in a trunk by a candy wrapper.
And this was a swab you took because the item tested positive, reacted positively to the Blue Star mist.
Right.
JMT4, that's also a swab that you took?
Yes, sir.
And this was also due to a reaction to the application of Blue Star in the trunk?
Yes, sir.
This was in a bumper crease area by the rubber gasket?
I don't remember.
You talked about this on direct, JMT8. Do you remember again what that was from?
I remember the carpet, the trunk liner. I don't remember what part tested positive.
Do you know if it was the top or the bottom?
I don't, sir.
But in any event, because that area tested positive, and it was probably something you couldn't really swab.
Right.
So because you couldn't swab it, you still wanted to make sure that you collected it.
Yes, sir.
And that's why you cut out a portion of it.
Right.
The portion that tested positive.
Yes, sir.
So again, your understanding of the procedure is that if something tests positive for Blue Star, it's documented, right, in the form of the camera that's taking pictures.
Yes, sir.
It's also documented by the collection of a sample from that area, right?
Yes, sir.
In the form of a swab.
Right. Yes,
It's also documented in a police report.
yes, sir.
a police report that oftentimes ends up in discovery, like this one, right?
Yes, sir.
Like the report that you're looking at from Detective O'Leary.
Yes, sir.
So, Detective, I'm just trying to figure out why you only remember the trunk. Is it because that was the only area where there was the positive reaction for Blue Star on the vehicle?
No, I think that's just the only area that I helped with.
And to the best of your recollection, you don't know how many days of processing the Sebring took?
No, sir.
You were just there for one day?
Yes, sir.
And that would be January 1st,
Right.
2022.
I was in and out a lot, sir, but the day in question, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything further?
Briefly, Your Honor.
They're just like speeding through these witnesses.
You did not spray the Blue Star in this particular case, correct?
No, sir.
And you were asked about training and experience with Blue Star. How many times had you applied Blue Star in the past at different crime scenes to try to discover evidence?
I can't remember if Guilford Ave happened before. I sprayed some there. A lot of the reason why I think I was involved in this was to learn that process, to see Detective O'Leary do it and assist him with it.
So at the time that you're assisting with this process, how much did you know about Blue Star? You were asked a lot of questions about protocols and procedures and chemoluminescence. Did you know about all of that at the time that you were assisting?
I was given very, very simple instructions that it'll glow and that there is a potential that they could be blood.
Have you ever mixed up the reagents to use at a crime scene?
No.
Have you ever read the directions that are necessary before you mix up those reagents?
No.
With regards to Blue Star, what it's good for and not good for, are you aware, or do you know whether it can cause a false negative or a false positive response?
I was told it can react with rust.
And it can react with rust?
Yes, sir.
You still have the photos?
Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. It's all right. I'll just take State's Exhibit 104. That's State's Exhibit 104 with registration. Am I reading that correctly?
I think it's 103.
So, excuse me, 103. 103. Could you find 104, please? 104?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that it might react with rust?
Yes, sir.
And the swabs that are taken, where do those swabs go?
I put them into the cardboard container, the swab container.
And what was your understanding of where they would be sent?
The state lab.
State lab. Thank you. No further questions.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Tom.
Involved with the Blue Star application process, yet you still understood that the goal was to over collect, correct, and not under collect?
Right. Yes, sir.
So if there was any kind of a reaction, you made sure that was your job there, was to collect it, right?
Right.
So that it could later be determined if it was a true positive, if it was the result of interaction with blood or from something else, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you were there, whatever your participation was, you made sure that you were collecting anything that reacted to the application of the spray.
Right. Not every. There were some areas that were very, very, very faint. That when Detective O'Leary and I looked at it, we said that clearly was like a rust seam or something of that nature. So we didn't collect those. But anything else, yes.
And Detective O'Leary, to your knowledge, was very familiar with the application of Blue Star. I'll rephrase. You indicated that you had this was your first or maybe second time,
Yes, sir.
and that was part of the reason why you were there, right?
Yes, sir.
Was to learn from somebody who did know about the application of Blue Star.
Correct.
Nothing further.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, you may step down. You are
Thank you.
excused. Statement called. Next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sorry, Your Honor, just making sure that the tech is ready. Your Honor, at this time, the state calls Sergeant Brian O'Leary to the stand. Just go to the stand and reinstate, please.
Please be careful of the wires as you walk through.
Thank you. Detective O'Leary, if you just stay there for a second, close it out. Please go ahead and raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony that you give this jury will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please
Thank you.
raise your hands. Sergeant, as we are being recorded here today, would you please state your full name and spell both your first and your last name for the record?
Brian O'Leary. BRIANO''LEARY.
And Sergeant, I'm going to guess, go ahead from your title, but where are you currently employed?
With the Manchester Police Department.
How long have you been working for them?
With Manchester for 17 years.
17 years?
That's correct.
Okay. And are you a full-time certified officer with the department?
Yes, I am.
Do you remember when you graduated the full-time police academy?
I did in 2003.
2003. Do you remember your academy class number?
I do, 132.
Okay. Currently, what unit are you working in inside the Manchester Police Department, and what shift?
I currently work the midnight shift as a patrol supervisor.
Okay. Did you work last night?
Yes, I did.
And what time did you get off work?
About 6 o'clock this morning.
Okay. Have you had a chance to get any sort of sleep before coming over
I have,
here?
yes.
Okay. If you need us to slow down, if you need us to restate a question, please let either myself or any attorney know, and we'll be glad to do that.
I will.
I'd like to ask, what are some of the different departments and units you've worked in at the Manchester Police Department?
I've worked in the patrol division and I've worked in the detective squad.
Okay. And how long have you been in the detective squad?
I was there for approximately 9 years.
9 years.
Yes.
And what are the dates of those years, if you could?
2013 until I got promoted in 2022.
What were some of your duties when you were in detectives?
I investigated crimes that happened in the city of Manchester, as well as processing crime scenes.
Back in specifically January of 2022, were you involved in the investigation into the disappearance then of Harmony Montgomery?
Yes, I was.
And did you continue to remain involved in that for several months?
Yes, I did.
I'd like to ask specifically about the very beginning of that investigation. Were you asked to work with other officers in doing a search of a 2010 Chrysler Sebring at the Manchester Police Department, Evidence Bay, with New Hampshire registration 4368206?
Yes, I was.
Okay. What was your role in the search of that car?
My role was to oversee and to help locate, identify, process pieces of evidence, and label pieces of evidence.
How long did it take to do this search?
We did over the course of 2 days.
Okay. And with regards to the first day, did you have a detective by the name of Joseph Tucker who was assisting you that day?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was he also assisting you the second day, or was that other people?
It was a different detective the second day.
Who was assisting you the second day?
Detective Ray Lammy.
can I ask you, with regards to the collection of evidence, this jury's understanding that initials of an officer sometimes play a role in how that evidence gets labeled. Can you describe for us how those initials play a role? So if you were to collect a piece of evidence and you were going to put your initials on it, how does that go into the evidence department?
You would use typically your three initials, followed by a number that identifies that specific piece of evidence that's being collected.
And when you say three initials, are you referring to first, middle, and last name?
Typically, yes.
Excuse me, sir. Apologize, Sergeant. Just trying to make sure that this is working properly. With regards to those initials, what are your three initials?
BEO.
And did you collect evidence in this particular case from this vehicle, or from this 2010 Chrysler Sebring?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So safe to say then it's going from BEO 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and on up.
That's correct.
At some point in looking at this particular vehicle, did you also test it with a substance known as Blue Star?
Yes, I did.
Could you go ahead and why don't you go ahead and tell us what Blue Star is and what it can do, what your training has been with it as well?
Blue Star is a chemical that detects the hemoglobin in blood. So we would generally spray it out of a spray mist container, and we would get a reaction to the hemoglobin in blood. The reaction that we get, I would identify it as the color of the tissue boxes in the front there, the top part. It comes up as a fluorescent blue.
And you're referring to these tissue boxes in the very top of the jury panel?
That's correct, yes.
The top blue or the lower blue?
The top blue.
Okay. And how would you describe that blue? What words would you use?
The chemiluminescent.
Chemiluminescent?
Yes.
Okay. Bright blue?
Bright blue, yes.
Okay. Excuse me. How do you apply Blue Star to something, whether it's an object or a large area?
The process, it comes in, there's a plastic container, spray bottle, and then a small little foil packet that has 3 tablets in it. We open up the 3 tablets, put it in the plastic container, and then we agitate it. We swirl it around, not to shake it vigorously. And once the tablets have dissolved, we adjust the spray nozzle on the nozzle so that it's a fine mist, not a stream. And then once we have the fine mist, then we start spraying whatever we suspect to be an area where blood could have been or is.
When you say that you spray it on, can you kind of describe how you would spray it on? Is it just, me at my house, spraying some Windex on a glass, or how do you spray it? What's the method you use?
Using the Windex example, it's not like you're using Windex where you're spraying it directly on the window. The method is you want to be about 2 feet away from the object and spray it slightly above it so it kind of falls down onto the object, not spraying it straight at it. It's more of a mist in the air so that it falls down on the object.
When you go to use Blue Star, and I take it, how many times have you done that yourself?
In my detective career, probably 15 to 20 times.
Okay. When you go to do that, is there a certain process that you follow each time? When you say, okay, I have to go use Blue Star, I'm going to go get reagents. What are the first steps that you do before you get to that step of mixing and agitating?
The first steps, I look at the item or the area that I'm going to process to kind of develop a game plan to figure out how we're going to do this. And once I've determined that whatever the area is, it's going to be processed, I'll go mix the Blue Star, as I mentioned before. While that's agitating, I'll get a camera ready. For the camera, we have special functions that we have to set up on the camera. In my time in detectives, I had one camera that was set up, so I would just have to press a button so that it would automatically go to that function. I would double check to make sure that it was on that correct function, that nobody had altered the program before. And I actually should say, before using the Blue Star, I'd read the directions just to make sure that nothing had changed from the last time that I'd used it. And all my times in doing it, it stayed consistent with how to use it. I got my camera ready. I also get a tripod. because the camera has to go on a tripod, because when you are taking a photo, once you have that reaction, you need to have a 30-second or more exposure. So that's what the tripod's for. So it can hold the camera still for the 30 seconds or longer as it takes the picture.
All right. I'd like to ask you about a couple of those different components that you just explained to us. I think you said that you read the directions every time. Why do you do that?
Just to make sure that I'm doing it properly.
Okay. And also with regards to the camera and the camera settings, why is that so important?
The directions say that it has to be at a certain set up a certain way so that the lens is open wider when it's taking the photo. Because we're also, and I apologize, didn't mention this earlier, we do this in total darkness or with a little bit of light. So that's why we have the long exposure. I would have a flashlight on my person. So when the lights were shut off, we could use the flashlight to, one, help assist us in getting around whatever object we were doing, making sure the camera was set up properly, and then adding just a little bit of light to the area. There's my understanding that the camera will take in whatever little bit of light there is and be able to take an appropriate photo with the reaction.
So when it comes to lighting, do you actually use other officers to help you? Have somebody on the light switch?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you said also that you set up a tripod. Why do you do that?
Because the exposure, once you click the button to take the photo, it's going to be 30 seconds. So if it's on a tripod, the camera's not moving. I'm not able to hold the camera for 30 seconds without any type of vibration or anything like that. So that's why we keep it on the tripod. That takes the photo of the reaction that we see it. Once we see the reaction, the tripod and camera is kept in the same location. The settings are readjusted to a normal photo, and then we take a second photo to show that same area if there was a reaction, what it looks like.
So you're taking a photograph if there is a reaction, and then separately the lights come back on. I just want to make sure I got this right. And you're taking a photograph of the same spot with the lights on, so we can see what that looks like in regular light. When you spray on the blue star, then does it physically change the color of the object? So, for example, if I sprayed it on this piece of paper, is this piece of paper going to turn blue?
No.
Okay. And so you take that second photograph. Why? Why is that important?
We take the second photograph if we see a reaction the first time. That way you can see the photo that has the reaction, the fluorescent blue, where where the reaction is on the object, and then you can see it again in normal daylight with the lights on.
When you are spraying these items on, spraying this material on, how big an area do you do at a time?
It depends on what the object is.
Can I ask a clarifying question on that then? So if it depends on what an object is, so for example, I wanted to photograph something the size of these tissue boxes that are here, and I just want to spray that and photograph that. When I do that, am I going to want to have my camera up close or far away? And how many times am I going to take a photo of that, do you think?
So the general rule with photography and with scenes is we'd start off with the wide one to show this kind of angle, and then we get to a mid-range photo, and then we wouldn't do a close-up photo. The close-up photo would just be right of that object. If we're using the example of the shoebox, I would probably stand back with the camera probably 3 feet and still spraying at 2 feet, slightly above it, so the mist would come down. But I also want to try to work on getting the top of the table part there, as well as the sides.
Separate from that, then, let's say I had something that was the size of this table here to my right. As you can see, is certainly longer than I am tall. If I wanted to go ahead and blue star an item that large, what would be the process to do that?
Same process as far as taking the photos. Something that size, I would probably break it up into maybe a half or even quarters. And with each section that would get broken up, I would take a photo just of that area, just where I'm processing. I wouldn't do the big area for this small piece. It would be a photo of this small piece for that small piece.
When you use Blue Star, can you get false positives sometimes?
Yes, you can.
What are false positives?
False positives are you would see the same reaction, the same fluorescent blue color. However, it doesn't last as long as what I've seen to be be a positive reaction. The positive reaction is from 30 seconds upwards to a minute. The false positives that I have seen, it turns to the bright blue quickly, and then it quickly fades.
Do you know what it is that can cause these false positives?
It can be different cleaning solutions, bleach, some chlorine-based materials, also some type of metals. I know iron was one specifically that it mentioned.
Do you know if any foods can cause these sort of false positives?
I don't know of any foods. I don't know.
You said in your experience. So have you seen some of these false positives before?
Yes, I have.
And if you get a positive, what you think may not be a false positive, would you go ahead and then swab that item?
Yes, I would.
How do you do that?
The swabs, it's like a Q-tip,
Mhm.
except it's about 5 inches long. The ones we use, wooden handle, and it's got the cotton swab at one end. They come two to a package that's sealed. We'd open the package. We take one swab out at a time. We would use sterile water if the sample that we were trying to collect was a dry sample. If it was something that was wet or moist, we could just use the swab. So if it's a dry sample, we would take some sterile water, pour some sterile water into the cap of the sterile water container, and we would dip the swab in the cap, and then we would take a swab of whatever we wanted to take a swab of. Generally, we would try to use the tip of the swab and just like a little swirling motion. You don't have to get the entire swab soaked in whatever the item is, but usually you want to get a good amount.
When you say the tip of the, I'm sorry, you would put the water in the cap of the sterile water solution. Am I envisioning correctly? We're talking about a cap, and you would turn it upside down, so the inside is what you would be pouring the water into.
That's correct. It's probably about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch cap.
And once you go ahead and take a swab of something that came back with what you believed may be positive for Blue Star, where does that swab go?
We then put that in a cardboard box. Cardboard boxes come flat. They're probably 6 inches or so, and about quarter of an inch or so in a square. So we assemble that box together. We put the swab in it, and we close the swab box. And then to seal the box, we would put evidence tape on both ends of the swab box, label it appropriately with whatever evidence numbers we were using. Generally put a biohazard sticker on that swab, and then we fill out information as far as the case number with the evidence number.
And where do those swabs get shipped to?
The state lab.
Did you apply Blue Star to this 2010 Chrysler Sebring with the New Hampshire registration 4368206 that we talked about earlier?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Where did you apply?
I did the interior and exterior of the vehicle.
Okay. I'd like to start with the exterior and kind of work our way in. When you say the exterior of the vehicle, what parts of the exterior?
The entire vehicle, the hood, the roof, passenger side doors, windows. There were no doors on the driver's side of the vehicle, and I did the trunk everywhere.
Sergeant, you've got a series of photographs in front of you that are photographs that specifically are numbered 4 through 10, as well as states exhibits 103, 4, 5, 6. If you'll go ahead and look through those for a brief moment. Some will be down there and some will be up there.
This one as well.
Yes, if you would please, that's 104.
Okay.
So I'd ask you to go ahead and look through 103, 4, 5, and 6 are the smaller standard paper ones. 104 through 10 are the larger. All set, Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Specifically, I'd like to go ahead and start, and you can feel free to either look at the photographs that are in front of you, or you can also look at the screen as I project them behind you. Either one's going to be fine. I'd like to go ahead and start with State's Exhibit 103. Sorry, I don't know why. Could you please look at State's Exhibit 103? It's one of the smaller ones.
Yes.
Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, I do.
I wonder if I could just approach the witness for a second. Excuse me. Bring it down, unplug it, plug it back in. State's Exhibit 103. You recognize that exhibit?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize it to be?
That's the Chrysler Sebring that I assisted in searching.
Okay. And is that the trunk of the vehicle?
Yes, it is.
Let me ask you, were you aware whether or not this car came from a tow lot before you saw it?
Yes, I was.
And I'd like to also move on to State's Exhibit, 5, if I could, please. One of the larger exhibits, or you can look on the screen behind you. Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How do you recognize the car?
It's missing the wheels on the front of the vehicle and the driver's side doors.
Now, you stated that at the time that you applied Blue Star to, I believe you said to all of the exterior. So does that include all of the hood that we can see here?
That's correct.
All right. Did you also apply it to the roof of the car?
Yes, I did.
Windshields?
Yes.
Okay. I see that we've got 2 doors missing here on the driver's side, but what about the passenger side doors and the exterior of those doors?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What about the trunk that we can see sticking up in the back of this photo? Did you apply it there?
Yes, I did.
From the Blue Star that was applied to the exterior of the car, did you receive any positive reactions?
No, I did not.
So with regards to the condition of the car, I wonder if you could go ahead and talk to us a little bit about that. What did you feel the condition was when you saw it?
I mean, it's obvious that it had been in a junkyard for a couple years. It was missing. What's seen in the picture here: the wheels, the doors, all of the guts to the vehicle were inside of the vehicle. There was no engine. The rear tires were missing. Inside, there were a lot of rust flakes, dirt, dust. Had like a moldy scent. Some areas were wet and still had some snow and ice in it.
So it still had snow and ice in it.
That's correct.
With regards to the missing parts here, did you also notice whether or not the engine was missing?
Yes, it was.
Overall, what was the smell of the car?
There was the musty, damp, gross smell.
Okay. I'd like to go to Exhibit 4 for a moment, please. You recognize this photo?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what's that a photo of?
The same vehicle, the Chrysler Sebring.
The Sebring. When you applied the Blue Star, what appeared as possible positive tests in the trunk area of the car? Did you get any possible positives there?
Yeah, we saw a couple areas that had some possible positive reactions.
Okay. And was that on the second or was that on the first day
That was on
you
the
looked
first
in the
day.
car? Who was assisting you that first day in collecting those swabs?
Detective Joe Tucker.
And you said Joe Tucker?
That's correct.
And those 4 swabs, were they all from the trunk area on the interior or were there any on the exterior?
Interior.
Once those 4 swabs, did you photograph them and apply the Blue Star in the same manner that you described for us a moment ago?
Yes, I did.
And once you collected those swabs, where were they sent?
New Hampshire State Lab.
Did you also use any tools on swabs? The jury's heard this question before, something called a hemastick.
Yes.
All right, what is a hemastick?
Hemastick is a small strip of paper that has one end, a small portion of it has some sort of chemical on it that also reacts to the hemoglobin in blood.
And did you use any hemosticks here?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Did you use them on any of the spots where you had those that Blue Star positive results?
When we had the Blue Star positive results, I think I did.
Well, I don't want you to necessarily guess. So
Yeah, I
let
can't.
me ask you, if you had a chance to look at your report, or did you write a report on the search of that car?
Yes, I did.
All right. And if you had a chance to look at that report, would that help refresh your recollection as to whether you used hemosticks on any of those 4 swabs from the trunk?
Yes, please.
Just a moment, please, Your Honor.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm going to hand you what's been marked, excuse me, has been marked. Bait stamp pages 111 through 114. I'm just going to ask you, do you recognize that document generally?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is the report that I did that documented the search of the Chrysler Sebring.
If you had a chance to look at that report, do you think that might refresh your recollection on whether or not you used hemosticks on any of those 4 swabs that were taken from the trunk?
Yes.
If you could please go ahead and do that, take your time. And then, does that refresh your recollection
Yes,
of
it
what
does.
that is?
Thank you.
Let me take the report. Were there any of those that you used hemosticks on from those 4 in the trunk?
Yes.
Okay, how many?
4.
4?
Yes.
You used 4 hemosticks on the 4 positive Blue Star.
Yes.
Why would you use another testing method after you use the Blue Star?
We use this kind of a backup, just to kind of reconfirm. In the event, in my experience, we have had some that do come out testing for positive. So this way we can at least explain to the lab if we need to that it tested positive for Blue Star and then also on the hemistick.
And why is that important to do? You say you do that for the lab. Can you kind of explain to us why?
I think they ask us if what we've done for processing. Just I guess my assumption is it's on their end, so they know how that they can process it further. So they know if it's been treated by other chemicals or what other chemicals have been used on it before.
And generally, when you do an application like this of some sort of a testing, do you tell the lab what you did so they know what may or may not be on there?
That's correct.
With regards to the hemosticks, can those also present a false positive sometimes?
Yes, they can.
Have you seen that in your experience?
I have, yes.
And can you explain what the hemosticks look like? I believe you said that they were little strips of paper. How small are we talking?
They are probably 2 inches, 2.5 inches in length, 1/8 of an inch wide.
Very narrow then.
Very, very narrow, yes. Okay. And then one end, it's got a different material on it. I can't remember if it's a different color, but it's obvious that that is the end where you put whatever reaction or whatever you want to test against on that end.
Did you use some hemosticks on other areas of the car, interior, other clothing that was found in the car, items that were found in the car in general?
Yes, I did.
And generally speaking, where did you send the ones that came back, these presumptive positive from the hemosticks? Where did you send those?
To the state lab.
Did you have any that you tested with hemosticks that actually came back negative for Blue Star first?
That's correct, yes.
And did you collect swabs from there as well?
Yes.
And where did you send those?
We just kept those at the police department.
Okay. Later on, do you know if any of those were sent to the state lab?
I don't recall.
Did you also, I believe you said before that you had, oh, excuse me. No, you didn't. Were you ever involved in a search of 77 Guilford Street?
Yes, I was.
And what was your role in that search?
I was asked to Blue Star a little section of the basement area.
Of a section of the basement area.
That's correct.
Okay. And other than that, did you have any other role to play in the search of that Guilford Street address?
I had to go back another time for a secondary search using Blue Star in a different area of the basement. And then I also assisted in a search of the property at 77 Guilford Street.
With regards to the two Blue Star applications at 77 Guilford Street, were they, so you said one was in the basement. Where was the second one about?
In the basement as well.
And also in the basement. And did either of those produce any positive results?
No, they did not.
What about the search of 644 Union Street later on? Were you present during a search of that residence?
Yes, I was.
All right. And who was primarily doing the search of that residence?
Representatives from the FBI.
And what was your role that day during that search?
My role is just mostly being an observer. If they identified something that's going to be taken as evidence, they would physically collect it from where it was, pass it off to myself, and I would bring it down to another representative from the FBI who would complete the evidence log and collect that piece of evidence and do their own documentation.
Just a brief moment, please, Rob. Sergeant Leary, I just have three last quick questions for you. With regards to the search of the trunk, you stated that you applied Blue Star, as I was correct, and you took 4 swabs. Were those 4 swabs from areas that tested presumptively positive?
Yes.
Under the Blue Star? Okay. And did you see any other indications back there that you deemed to be false positives?
Yes.
Okay. And how many? Do you remember?
Maybe 3 or 4. Maybe 2 or 3 in the trunk area.
Okay. 2 or 3 in the trunk area. Okay. And with regards to the other areas of the car, did you find food wrappers in that car or food containers?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Just one or multiple?
I found multiple. There are like snack packs, some baby bottles, some baby food containers, and other miscellaneous wrappers for food.
In your search of the car, were there a large number of pieces of evidence that were taken out that were assigned with your name, BEO1, BEO2, BEO3, things like that? Okay. And were those ones that all that you had seized and then again got logged in under your initials?
That's correct.
All right. At this time, Sergeant Leary, I don't have any further questions for you. I believe we may need to see the court for a brief moment, but then defense counsel will have a few.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I think this is a good natural breaking point for you all to break for lunch. So I'm gonna release you for lunch. I remind you, don't discuss the case with each other or with anybody else. Make sure that you are keeping an open mind. Don't do any research. Don't look up any media. And we will see you after the lunch break. If you would return at 1 o'clock, please. All rise for the jurors. All right, sir, I am going to have you come back at 1 o'clock. I'm sure you're tired, but I needed to give them a break. So, all right, everybody, 1 o'clock. Yes. You may step down. Okay, give me 1 minute. You may sit down. I reviewed the letter. I just want to review the draft letter. typically we would get this electronically, so I don't usually give a signed copy back that's not already filed. So I can do this one of a couple ways. I can just, if you take a minute, I'll get 3 signed copies and get them to each of you. Or I can give it to you and you can take it downstairs and make copies and upload it. Might make sense. I'm fine either way. Okay, so just maybe just wait a minute and I'll get you signed copies of I'll get you copies of both the letter and the order for Attorney Sheehan and each of the parties. Okay, so just give me 1 minute.